Sorry.
Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to the inaugural Carwyn Collaborational at-home edition. Hopefully, the first and only at-home edition. Hello to anyone, especially you watching live in WA. Good luck. You've got a very big day ahead today. I'm going to the Crafty Pint. I'm really happy to be here hosting today. I'm joined by Ben Carwyn and Ben Duval, aka the two Bens, or Big Ben, Little Ben, whatever you want to call them. As you can tell by the glassware. The pilots and co-pilots here at Carwyn Cellars, which is, I guess, been responsible for shoving more deliciousness into more Australian spaces than most people. So, congratulations on that.
Thank you.
And yeah.
Huge team effort, obviously. We've got a big team at Carwyn.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, it's just been massive that we've actually gotten to this point now.
I was going to say, how are you now you've got to this point? Like, how are you feeling? We're only 7 months on from the original date, I think.
Yeah, 7 months almost exactly.
Almost 7 months exactly. It's very interesting because we like to make a lot of time for ourselves because we do this and then next week we're doing Man Band. So, you know, I'm looking forward to the bar being open again. It's
Yeah, I can't believe we bloody made it. It was the little festival that could.
Yeah, well, I have to say though, given the weather in Melbourne over the last 24 hours, if this had been on the street outside, it would have been a bit of a washout. So we can count ourselves lucky on that front. I guess first thing, what can people expect today if they haven't sort of, you know, been sort of reading all the stuff you've been sending out? They're just tuning in for the first time with their beers.
Well, I assume everyone's looked at the beers now, so you know, spoilers, but it's a pretty banging box of beer. I hope everyone agrees. So the beer really speaks for itself, but we've got some great, you know, pre-recorded brewery material that the breweries have sent in, and some fantastic zooms of the Australian and international brewery pairings coming up as well. And then a bit of live action later in the day.
So live stuff, obviously having a chat now. I'll be chatting to Steve Finney from Otherside and Joss from Garage Project at 2 p.m. Australian, what's it, Eastern Daylight Time. I've only been here 12 and a half years, I still get confused. And then about 3:30 we'll be joined by a few other brewers as well. If you want to throw any questions onto the live chat to ask over the course of the day, feel free, and we'll chuck them at the guys when we can. I guess the background to this, when did you realise that you weren't going to be able to do Carwyn Collaborational sort of in the street, and how did you go about turning it into this? Because this is a pretty sort of major thing to do online as well.
Yeah.
it's about 2 weeks out.
We made the call 2 weeks out from the original festival. I mean, the original date was 28th of March.
Yeah.
We had brewers had already left their home countries to come to Australia for the festival. That's how tight it was. We had a large amount of air freighted beer was already here.
Yeah.
We ended up selling a fair bit of that through Canimals in the bottle shop. We were gutted originally when we had to postpone, to be honest. And the day on the 28th ended up 26 degrees, perfect. I mean, the festival was going to be on the street outside of Carwyn. But the more we thought about it and threw around the idea of a virtual festival, the more excited we got to carry on that momentum.
Well, because originally when you pushed it back to the October date, didn't you actually think it was still going to be on the street? That was the plan?
Yeah.
Little did we know. We wouldn't leave the house for 7 months.
Yeah, super early days of the pandemic. Yeah.
And so what's been involved in changing it around? I mean, as much changed in terms of, obviously the physical concept has changed, but in terms of the actual theory behind it, as much of that changed, or have you kept it as true to the...
It's pretty well as true to what we always wanted. I think the sort of genesis of the idea was that there's these great Australian breweries who don't give themselves enough credit. And so it was kind of a thing of we can throw some of the guys we know from overseas that are making great beers together and make the Aussie guys realise they're actually really good. And then that kind of grew from there into the festival. And yeah, we've kept it pretty true to what it was. Just sent everyone beer instead of having them come here.
Exactly. Each pairing for the festival, the original festival, they were going to do a collaboration beer anyway. Some were going to be poured on the day. Some were going to be, when they were in Australia, they would do the collab, it'd be released later. So it was really, you know,
just organic to do what we did in the end.
And how did the pairings come together? How did you decide who would be with who? Did people say we want to work with them, or how did that come about?
Yeah, mixed bag. I mean, we did quite a lot of matchmaking, which was fun. Choosing breweries to go together. I mean,
did anyone turn around and go, "I'm sorry, mate"? No.
No, but there were a couple of breweries that were surprisingly hard to get people to partner with.
Okay.
Especially during the pandemic, international breweries have been, some are great, some are just so busy with their own things, they just forgot about the whole thing. Obviously, a couple of brewery pairings didn't happen for this festival.
Yeah. It was about 80% original.
80%
though.
original.
Yeah.
And then we had things like the one brewery that we all thought would be the easiest Australian brewery to pair with was Mr. Banks.
Yeah.
And that was the last one and took by far the longest.
Okay.
Which makes no sense.
Which makes no sense to us.
But they got there in the end. You've been talking up that beer as well. Been one of your favorites.
My favorite beer in the pack. Yeah. I mean, they're all crackers, but yeah.
Excellent. Well, I had a question from Jason Brunn, came through on Instagram. He was wanting something a bit more about how the setup works almost behind the scenes in terms of the financial setup, like, in terms of the split with the brewers, especially as international brewers, like how does it work for paying for the liquid and funding the festival and all that kind of stuff?
So the way collabs generally work is the brewery that's brewing the beer, it's their beer, that the partner just comes in and it's a bit of marketing and PR and those sort of things. So we went to the Australian breweries and said, we want to do this, make the beer, we'll buy all the stock. And this has actually allowed us to make the festival a lot bigger than the original plan. It's 3 times as many people getting the beer than the original festival. So it runs kind of similar to CanVent,
Yeah. We basically let the breweries, pitch to us, this is what we would like to do.
Yeah.
And then it was a little bit of a negotiation, but for the most part, it was just they went for it.
Yeah.
The last couple of collabs that got locked in, tried to get them to do certain styles just for balance in the pack.
Yeah.
But yeah, super happy with the way it's turned out.
Just out of interest, I guess, because a lot of things are changing with what's happened over the last 7 months. A lot more stuff is going online. People are innovating. You mentioned CanVent. Do you think you would have an element like this to CanVent going ahead?
You're putting the pressure on now.
Come back and tell me at 4 o'clock when we're done for the day. You can have a chat out the back. And so you say, thoughts on the beers. Then you've ended up with, you've got some sort of fruit sours. We got some big hazy. We got some pastry stouts.
There's lots of IPA actually.
I think it's one of those ones we kind of tried to make a balanced pack. There's a bit of an order to the drinking it if you want to. And it's sort of, to me personally, I'll start with some of the lighter sours like the One Drop and work my way through some of the hazies and some of the bigger IPAs. Maybe I'll come back to one of the other sours or something like the Deep Fake, which I think is probably my most intriguing beer of the pack. And then I'd probably have one of the stouts and then I'd have a bit of a freshen up and then finish off.
Well, there is...
Yeah, and a little snooze if you're going to... Please don't do them all in one day.
If you look at the festival map, there is a schnoozing area.
Yeah.
Okay.
Speaking of the booklets, there is a suggested drinking order or our suggested drinking order in the booklet. But also, please don't feel you have to tackle all 11 beers in the 4 hours of the festival. It's 26 standard drinks. So, you know, if you're going to do it, make sure you got lots of help.
Well, that's it. If you come to the festival, you'd be having tasters of all the beers, whereas
hence
the
glass.
Otherwise, it would be 375s or 500 mils of everything. I guess aside from the festival, like, how have you guys gone through the pandemic? I guess because you've had the retail and the online side of things not as badly as some, but I know obviously the venue's been closed. You've been doing a bit of work there, so what's been going on for Carwyn?
So it was pretty gutting when we had to shut because it's half the business. Thank you to all the customers, and I know it's not just me, it's all retailers and everyone. You've supported everyone. So yeah, we shut half the business, we cancelled the festival, and then kind of went, crap. How are we going to get through it? But it's been really good. It's forced us to do things we wouldn't normally do. It's forced us to do things that we wanted to do that we haven't time. So it's been...
And we've been supported so much by our local community. So, you know, massive thanks to everyone for that.
And so when you do reopen, which is going to be post-CanVent packing, will people find anything new when they walk back through the door?
So Yes and no. You might not see it unless you understand and worked in a bar. We've done a lot of work on the back of house side. We designed Carwyn to be a bar with 50 seats for the locals. And anyone who's been here knows we're not that size. And so we've actually reorganized the bar, built new wet areas. We've completely rebuilt the beer font.
New bar top, it's beautiful. Thanks to Pete and Mikey for that.
New inbuilt drip trays. We've got glass rinsers. We've done a lot of back of house things to make the service better, to make the staff work more efficiently. You know, means they're not carrying glasses all the way around the bar, all sorts of things like that. So it's
all the things we never thought about 7 years ago. Yeah.
I don't know if anyone knows this, but Carwyn is the first and only bar we've ever built. We've never done this before, so it was a bit of a learning experience when we started.
It's gone reasonably well. Well, I think we're going to move on now and get on to the pre-recorded interviews. I'll be back at 2 o'clock and at 3:30. Thanks, guys, for turning this around and getting me involved. And everyone have an awesome day.
Enjoy.
Thanks very much.
Cheers.
Cheers.
G'day. Now, I know that you guys are hosting a virtual beer festival in Australia on October 24th, and we, all of us here, would love to welcome ticket holders to the Carwyn Collaboration International Craft Beer Festival. Just don't get off your face. I think you know what that means. Anyway, words of wisdom from the Hoff off.
Hello to everyone down under. We're over here in Phoenix, Arizona at one of our 2 locations. We're in downtown Phoenix, and we are Arizona Wilderness Brewing Company. This is Patrick. Hi, I'm Patrick. And I'm Jonathan. Welcome. Welcome in. So this is our beer garden. We're going to show you right now what it looks like. Pretty neat, huh? Yeah. So we're pretty bummed we couldn't make it out this year. Obviously, we had plans to be there this weekend, and if you've ever heard of COVID, apparently it's a thing. So we're stuck here, but we wanted to talk about our brewery. Pat, what do you think? Who are we? Who are we? We are Arizona Wilderness. So check us out, right? We're the Wilderness guys, and we live out there. We live in the wild. So this inspiration started from this young man. Now I've got a couple of grades in his beard. Getting old now because he's kind of Edward Abbey-esque outdoorsman. I'm a sardonic old camping man with a camera, which inspired the way that we approach our brewing, even into our food. So we love getting in contact with the ingredients and everything that we do, even to wild geese. We're gonna go catch wild geese out in the woods. Yep. So we love doing that kind of stuff. We also just like kicking it, hanging out in our beer garden, and slamming some pine stuff. So we want to bring the wilderness to the city, and I know, especially where you guys are, there's a lot of wilderness just north of the city. I think you guys get what I'm saying, and the cities need someone to bring back the wilderness and the natural landscape. So that's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to keep that kind of farmhouse identity alive as well, even in this new world of brewing. So we have a wood cellar, that we have all the crazy microbes happening, microorganisms, and that's where we do derive some inspiration, though. And so we do have a beer that we made via an email collaborative process. Process. We use something called We zoomed a beer together. Yeah, it's called Saltbush. It's in a hazy pale ale. I don't know what Saltbush is. I don't know what it tastes like. I don't know what the beer tastes like, and I'll never actually taste it. If it tastes bad, blame Sailor's Grave. If it tastes good, give us credit. But they're cool humans, so we can't wait to. We had a plan to go sleep out in the wilderness. That's their plan, right? Yes, this is our plan. Flying Australia, 5-hour drive. Had it all planned out mentally. We're gonna sleep out in the wilderness and then make this beer, and then apparently there's this flying pathogen situation. So that's where we're at. Yeah, but the beer came out. Try the beer out, tell us what you think, and have fun at that festival. We're just going to dig it here in this. We'll see you next year. We'll be there next year. We'll do it. Okay? Love y'all. We'll do it for you.
Hi, this is Chris and Gab from Sailor's Grave Brewing, and we're here to talk about our collaboration beer for Carwyn Cellars with the legends from Arizona Wilderness. It is Out Too Far, Hazy Pale, with Wild Forage Coastal Saltbush.
How did you approach making this beer, Chris?
When we came up with this beer, we really wanted to express the shared values of both Arizona Wilderness and Sailor's Grave have, and that is a love of place, a love of local ingredients. The guys from Arizona Wilderness, Pat and John, use lots of local ingredients. They have locally malted grain, and it really comes through in their beers, and we wanted to do something like that. So they do a pretty mean hazy. We thought we'd take one of their recipes and add a bit of zing from some locally foraged wild coastal saltbush.
What's your most pretentious tasting notes?
So this beer is creamy, full-bodied, just a hint of bitterness. Lots of fruity hop notes from pineapple through to a bit of coconut and citrus. And it's got this really nice, herbaceous, subtle, ocean-like quality from the coastal saltbush.
And what would you pair it with, food-wise?
I would pair this beer, with food, probably a South Indian prawn curry. I think the big, bold flavours of prawn curry, especially a South Indian with curry leaves and whole mustard seeds, would really handle well with the big, full-bodied, creamy, hazy, hoppy beer. They need something to stand up to each other.
Did you know your partner brewed before this, and tell us a bit about them?
Yeah, so we met Pat and John from Arizona Wilderness when we were both part of the McKellar Tokyo Beer Celebration in 2019. It was a crazy few days. Those guys really know how to have a lot of fun. But more importantly, their beers are fantastic. We found a lot of similarities in our approach to making beer, especially loving using local ingredients and supporting local community. Yeah, it was, as soon as we met them, I thought it'd be great to work with them. Plus they've got great beers. So it was meant to be, I think.
And what's the biggest challenge doing a collab like this?
The biggest challenge in doing a collab like this is quite obviously the coronavirus. When this was initially envisaged, Pat and John were going to come out, stay on the farm with us. We were going to take a helicopter ride out over the recently bushfire ravaged coast near us. And of course we were going to do a brew together, but none of that is possible. So everything's been organised remotely, and yeah, that's the most challenging part.
What song would you listen to while drinking this beer?
A song for this beer, we could go one of two ways: complementary or contrasting. So a beer that would complement this beer, a song that would complement this beer really well would be Bill Callahan's Ride My Arrow. It's got the laid-back twang and soaring character, which I think both Arizona Wilderness and Sailor's Grave relate to. If I was to go contrasting, I would definitely go for something like The Great Rocket by Herbie Hancock and Bill Laswell from the 1983 album Future Shock. Totally different from the beer, but sometimes contrast is a good thing. Cheers, guys.
I haven't tried it for a couple of weeks, so
I should join you. So, well, yeah, welcome everybody to one of the Carwyn Collaborational 2020 chats. It's been a long time since March when we were supposed to be doing this in person. We now have deep fake in hands. We have Stu. You look like you're in some sort of medical sort of facility in Tasmania. Can you tell us where you are?
That's the old. I'm in the office at the brewery. That's the old manual sort of labeler I've got over there, which is the medical looking piece of equipment.
Yeah.
Server rack. Yeah. Lots
and
of
we have Brian, founder of Stillwater Artisanal. You're based in Seattle now, is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. Long long story, but yeah, I'm out here now.
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll start maybe with a little bit about yourself. I mean, you've had a pretty a diverse lifestyle, I guess. You know, I mean, I guess we'll focus mainly on the beer, but prior to beer, you obviously, you know, you did a bit of traveling and as a producer and DJ.
Yeah, did a little bit in the music and industry, but I would say what I ended up doing with Stillwater was definitely the bulk of my travel.
Yeah. How is it 10 years now since Stillwater put the first beers out, or is it even longer now?
Yeah, they're almost 11 now.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, I think we're officially 10 years, I guess, but like anniversary.
How are you going to be? I guess you haven't been able to celebrate 10. My website turned 10 about a month or so ago, and we're planning to celebrate 10+1 because there's not a lot you can do when you're stuck at home.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, you can just celebrate the fact that you're still existing at this point.
yeah. And with Stillwater, I mean, obviously there's been a bit of evolution. You started off, you know, brewing with other people's breweries. I guess you kicked off. You caught my eye very early on because you had a passion for, you know, interesting farmhouse styles, making saisons. We'll come to this beer, which again is back in that sort of style. You've sort of gone in different directions since, but you know, how would you describe your approach to brewing and the liquid?
I guess I've always taken my role as almost from a design standpoint, and almost like fashion design, but it's like beverage design. After a decade of doing Stillwater, I less and less have spent more time. I've spent time in the brew house, and it's more working with engineers to just see the vision through. And yeah, I'm just kind of more right now. I'm more expanding into other elements of everything from non-alcoholic to hard seltzers to natural wine.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I saw you've got an India Pale hard seltzer out, so that caught my eye. Oh, there you go. I know we're here to talk about
the original.
I know we're here to talk about the collaboration. Very quickly, how do you make an India Pale hard seltzer?
I mean, it's pretty much just my hard seltzers, I go about a full ferment. They're basically, it's a wine ferment. And so with the India Pale hard seltzer, just a combination of cane sugar and agave syrup. Yeah. As the base, fermented dry and hop, you know, just like an IPA.
Yeah.
And it's just a bone dried, like, and 6%.
Yeah. And you're in Seattle now anyway. I think you were based on the East Coast when we first met. So how have you ended up over there in Washington State?
I was doing both. I've always wanted a place on the West Coast because the weather is so much nicer compared to very humid summers and cold winters. I was getting tired of that. So I wanted to have a place to go back and forth. And then eventually it wasn't making sense to have two places. So I just gave up the New York spot for a while and just kept with Seattle.
Yeah, fair enough. Now, Stu, whereabouts are you still in Launceston, or have you moved up to the top of the ice in Launceston?
Yeah, I'm based in Launceston. Brewing at Miners Gold, which is half an hour north, but yeah, still based in the north of Tassie.
Yeah. And that's in terms of the club, have you guys actually met in person before?
No, actually, this is our first meeting.
There you go. Because this is the fascinating thing I know that the whole concept of the festival was collaborations, you know, international collaborations, and then ideally getting together on the day. But I guess the nature of this is that you can't actually, it's very rare that you're going to meet in person. So how did you, I guess, did you get put together, or did you choose to be put together, and how did you go about designing a beer? I mean, it makes sense from me looking from the outside in terms of the beers you guys are interested in, but how did it sort of all come about?
Yeah, we were sort of put together by the Carwyn team, and straight away it sort of made sense to me just from a, I guess, yeah, like Brian was saying, that sort of design point of view, like, I feel like a fraud saying that because I've got no design credentials whatsoever, but that's been a big part of our brand. My brother-in-law started off, and now a designer that we've got on board. That's sort of been a big part of it, is getting the aesthetic part right, and you know, that's an important part of it. And then obviously, you know, I think we have brewed a lot of similar styles to Stillwater, so that sort of made sense straight away. In terms of the collaboration, I think we did it a lot of to and fro with email, which is probably the way it was always going to be, even, you know, without a global pandemic, really.
Yeah. I was headed down to, I did have a flight booked. I was headed down to, was it for the festival? The whatever in March. I mean, for the hop harvest in New Zealand.
Yeah.
And something, there was a stop in Melbourne, but now it's been so long. I forget what it was.
Well, it's funny, isn't it? Like the year seems to have flown by in some ways, and then you go, was that really still this year? But yeah, there's been the virtual hop harvest from the States for Aussies. Like normally they'd have been over in the States recently, and everything's had to shift. Yeah. So did you very quickly settle upon a style? I mean, you're looking, so it's your sort of, well, I'll let you guys tell us where you started and where you ended up.
Yeah. I'm trying to recall exactly, but I you go, Brian.
I mean, I know that the whole wine hybrid thing is something I've done a lot with. I think that's, I can't recall how we came about that, but I think it was. Have you guys also done more in that realm?
Not yet, but it's definitely something that I was quite interested in anyway. I think it may have come about, I sent a little sort of brief of, you know, here's where we are, like this is where our brewery is located. We're in the Tamar Valley, which is a great wine growing region in Tassie. I might have thrown that in as part of my sort of brief of, you know, who is Ocho and what do we do and that sort of thing. And maybe that's sort of where it, but it was definitely Brian's idea to try a beer wine hybrid as the style. And then from there, you know, that was sort of, I started contacting a couple of local winemakers, and they all told me I was about 6 weeks late for getting any sort of grape pressings mark from this vintage. So we sort of had to think outside the box in terms of how could we create a sort of a wine-like beer without access to fresh grapes and that sort of thing.
And how do you do that without grapes? How do you create a beer wine hybrid? I mean, the Sauvin's giving it that real distinctive character, I think, is part of it. But how did you overcome the lack of fruit?
We sort of pulled out a lot of little tricks. So the New Zealand hops were my first thought. You know, we had access at that time to fresh crop New Zealand hops, and so that was sort of the basis of it. Brian suggested we make it as a saison style, and I straight away thought of the French saison yeast, which I find gives some nice wine-like characteristics as well. We decided to kettle sour it, so add a little bit of tartness to it. So it's the pH of the beer is about 3.6, which is not even as low as most white wines are, sort of lower than that. It's on par with a red wine, more like in terms of acidity. But yeah, that sort of acidity, I think, you know, adds to the illusion of that grape-like quality. And then what is it? The last thing we did was to throw some French oak into the boil as a way of adding a little bit of drying sort of tannins to the finish of the beer. We kept that pretty subtle, so the oakiness is very much on the subtle side. We didn't want to end up with a puckering sort of dry saison, but yeah.
Do you manage to sort of actually keep the conversation going through the brewing process? Like, you know, report back and go, we're here now. Do you think we should change anything along the way? Or is it pretty much as the sort of the remote collaborator, do you have to go, all right, it's in your hands now, Stu, don't fuck up my brand?
I guess in all honesty, it's been, especially during this time, it's been kind of crazy. So it has been, you know, set it and forget it. I guess to a degree, you know, I wish we could say that we were more communicative, and probably in more regular times we would be. But I think everybody right now is making transitions in their existence. So it's been difficult.
But you managed to get hold of some, which is great. So, you know, you've had a taste. What is it sort of where you imagined it should be?
Yeah, I think like I agree with you. Like the oak is very minimal, if present at all, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, we got we got those, you know, the fruity phenols from the yeast, and the lactose sour is just enough between that and the hops. So I think it's a great tropical fruit, like bomb as far as flavor is concerned.
No, the Soban really carries through. And so, I mean, is this something that is it sort of something you think will continue beyond this? You know, do you have plans to brew it again, Stu, or is this going to be the collaborational one-off?
Never say never. The whole brew day was a bit of a monster. The kettle souring process. I've done quite a few of them, and I'm pretty confident. You know, you give it about 24 hours with the dosage of lactobacillus that I use now, and it's generally pretty much soured at the end of 24 hours. But unfortunately, this one I came back to work the next, tested the pH, and it wasn't there yet. pH was only about 4. So I had to sort of pull a 15-hour shift or something at the brewery to give it more time to fully sour. And yeah, so it ended up being a sort of double and a half brew day to get it done. But hey, look, it turned out well.
And aside from the beers, I mean, how have things been for you in the States then, Brian? Have you in terms of, you know, you've talked about your existence, changing your existence. What does that actually mean? I mean, what does it mean to be a brewer in the States at the minute? You know, especially one like yourself who generally, you know, would be spending time on the road and I guess out and about.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, for me, I've just been really focused on making new, interesting products. In general, I was more so. There was a time when I was just my time was divided between designing products and promoting the products and promoting a culture behind that.
Yeah. So
now that it's difficult to, there's no travel, there's no Pied Piper kind of situation right now. So I don't know. For me, at first it was a little difficult. It was an introspective, like, step back and look inside. And now I feel that I don't know, my creativity I feel is blossoming because of that pause, and that time of consideration.
Yeah, no, it's been interesting, hasn't it? I think that sort of, I'd have probably done 6 or 7 interstate trips around. Well, I suppose we're doing a 3.5 month trip with the family, but in a normal year, I'd have done 6 or 7 trips of 3 or 4 days at a time, which would have been fun, but would have been exhausting. And you kind of have time when you just sort of at home. Like we've been in lockdown in Melbourne for 3 months now, like not allowed to travel more than 5Ks and not allowed out for more than 2 hours, whatever. And it's pretty frustrating, but you have that time to, okay, what do I need? What do I need to fix? What can I do better? You know, and you know, it'd be good to get back out on the road again, but maybe not quite to the same level.
Yeah, exactly. I think you know, there's certain things that blossom from explosions of energy and moments of excess, but that's how things crash and burn at the same time. So, you have to count your wins and sometimes just like take that energy and like try to like stretch it out.
Yeah. And how's life in Tassie, Stu? You're almost back to normal, aren't you? I think. Are you relatively safe down there in Little Island?
So we, where I brew, we you know, we've got a tap room that was shut for 3 or 4 months. During that time, we sort of pivoted pretty heavily towards packaged beer, and obviously not having the tap room, not having any other pubs open, we couldn't sell any kegs. So we, yeah, I was actually probably busier over the beginning of the lockdown than before. And yeah, now the tap room's back open, so we're sort of found ourselves having to keep up with a lot more packaged beer than we were doing before, plus all the keg stuff. So it's yeah, it's been pretty busy. As for Tassie, yeah, we are sort of, there's still, you know, social distancing restrictions and all of that sort of stuff in place, but other than that, like the pubs are open, we're relatively back to normal. Yeah, there's just that sort of awkward moment every now and then when you shake someone's hand and you go, oh, sorry, I'm not supposed to do that. You know?
Yeah. Well, and once we're free again, where would be the one place you'd most like to jump on a plane and head to? What's the one thing you're missing above all else during the pandemic?
Actually, I've just come back from a week off. I took the family around a couple of places in Tassie. The government here was handing out travel vouchers. Basically, what did they call it? They called it the Make Yourself at Home scheme or something. And they're trying to encourage interstate or intrastate travel. And it's been really good, sort of just appreciating the place where you live.
Yeah.
Tasmania is a pretty amazing state, but yeah, being stuck in it sort of makes you appreciate that a bit more even.
So they give you like hotel vouchers or something?
Yeah, you can basically book a holiday and then claim back a certain amount, you know, per adult and per child for accommodation and then for activities as well. So it's a stimulus type thing.
What about yourself, Brian? What are you eager to get out and reclaim in your life?
I don't know. I just took I flew a week ago. That was my first flight in 6 months. That was to Marfa, Texas for an art excursion with some friends. But other than, I don't know. I think I definitely am looking forward to getting back to travel. I want to see my friends around the world. I was looking forward to coming to Australia and New Zealand. I really want to get back to Asia, Japan and China. And I don't know. I'm looking forward to getting back on the travel, but maybe with more direction and more focus than before. I think that's what I learned from the pause, was to digest your experiences a little more and take a little more time in between.
Yeah. It's just come back to me. The last time we met was on the streets of Footscray. I think, was it a couple of good beer weeks ago? I think you were wandering the streets with Adam and maybe Michelle, and we bumped into each other in the West Melbourne suburb of Footscray. It's just come back to me now. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the thing. It's been so much of the past few years, past fucking 10 years of my travel. It's become a blur because it was just so much travel. And I remember the first time I came to Australia that I was off of like this worldwide excursion, and I was so spun out that I just couldn't get comfortable, couldn't get my bearings, didn't know where I was at. And I think the human body, it's not made to throw itself around the world like that, in that kind of like back and forth velocity. I don't think it's healthy for anyone.
Yeah. Well, you know, at least we're finding a way of doing an international collaborational festival without that, even though I'm sure next time around they'd like to have you over. But no, I'll wrap up this chat. I've really enjoyed the beer. Admittedly, it is only now 11:20 on a Monday morning, so I might have to have a little, either a very strong coffee or a little nap before getting on with the day. But
you're not going to kick on, James?
Probably not. My wife will be back with my 5-year-old in a bit, so I don't know how it will look if I'm 3 beers deep. But enjoyed the beer, we'll send the video over once it's been put together as part of the day, and look forward to seeing you over here in Melbourne. Well, both of you in Melbourne at some point, and maybe catching you guys where you are as well.
I definitely need to get down there as soon as. I actually have a flight voucher lined up, so I'm just waiting for shit to open, and then I'm ready. I got a first class voucher like waiting for me. So.
Oh, nice.
because of all the ruckus. So yeah, I'm ready. I'll come down anytime.
Today we're drinking the Mismatch Brewing and Track Brewing collab Ever and a Day IPA.
I've got to just interrupt you there for a second. Camera, can you just go? Yeah, hi, hello.
Why are you on him?
Hi.
He's not doing anything.
Yeah, what is he? What? He's just a gnome.
Did you get any of
just
that?
Sitting out here, like, what the hell?
You look so bored.
Anyway, hi, how's it going?
What are you Googling, by the way? Hey guys, welcome to the Carwyn Collaborational 2020. We are from Carwyn Cellars. I'm Allie.
I'm Erin.
And we are drinking Ever and a Day IPA from Mismatch Brewing out of Adelaide Hills and Track Brewing out of Manchester, UK. Drinking delicious so far, but obviously we were supposed to be waiting for you. I'm sorry, we couldn't.
It was too tempting.
Did you hear that sound? That was a good sound.
Good sound. Gosh, look at that. Not a spill. Not a spill at all.
It looks so good, man.
Oh, look at that head.
Take a little more.
Look at that.
Yeah, that's so good. All right, let's get in. Let's get your nose in that.
Get that nose in.
Ooh. Passion fruit. Up the woo-ha. And then, that's the technical term for it, by the way.
Up the woo-has.
Is passion fruit up the woo-ha.
Yeah, if there's two of you, that's when it's woo-has. It's a plural. Woo-has.
Woo-has.
Yeah. A woo-ha-hee.
Don't know what. And pineapple.
Pineapple.
Tons of pineapple.
Yeah, a little bit of candied pineapple.
Yeah.
Just like a little smattering, but not in a decadent sort of way, just a delicious sort of refreshing little, ooh, hello.
Hello. A very British kind of little just, I'm over here, by the way.
I'm a little bit of candied pineapple. I'm just here, just dancing on your palate there.
Just right over there.
Just over there.
Should we drink it?
Oh,
our nose has been in
cheers.
Cheers,
Cheers, everybody. That is fluffy.
I know.
Isn't that fluffy?
Man, that feels so nice. Lovely, soft, perfect amount of carbonation. Nice and juicy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You wouldn't get palate fatigue from it. Like, it's just really delicious, really easygoing, like perfect in this sort of weather right now with like spring, summer on the way, you know.
I hope you're all drinking this and getting the same.
Ever and a Day IPA keeps the doctor away. So, you know.
That's some solid work.
Thank you so much. Thank you
work.
so much.
Solid.
I'm real proud.
You should be.
My mum would be
really
proud.
good.
My mum in Greensboro. Hi Anne, how's it going? Hope you're
Hi,
doing well
Marianne.
today.
But this beer came to everyone by many, many emails between Stefan and Ewan. Whether it was what mash temperature we were going to run at or step at to get the haze and the cloudiness. Whether it was when we were going to add our hopping regime to get the best out of trying to merge that East Coast and that West Coast style. For us, everything was done together. Really hard when you're on opposite time zones, on opposite sides of the world, but technology has bridged that gap. Food-wise, you can go two ways with this beer. You can either have a nice rich dessert and it'll actually stick up really well, so like an apple tartare with maybe like a little bit of a mint and pineapple salsa type thing on it, or you can go big. And if I was going big, I'd say something like a slow braised lamb shank, not in this weather obviously, with a nice gremolata, but it needs that gremolata with the chopped herbs in it to really bring out that resiny component of the actual beer itself. So for us, this was exciting, this was fun. It was a challenge. Technology is always a challenge, but we want to share this. We want to thank everyone for being part of the Carwyn collaboration, and we're looking forward to when we actually can do it in person. So if you need any more information, any more notes, jump on our socials, jump on the website, jump on any bit of technology that you think might help us. But thank you to everyone for sharing. Thank you to Track for imparting your knowledge on us, and thank you to the Carwyn team for allowing us to be part. Enjoy, everyone. Cheers to beer.
Hey there, this is Matt Brennelson, brewmaster of Firestone Walker Brewing Company. Firestone Walker started in 1996. It was originally started by Adam Firestone and David Walker, and both of them came out of the winemaking industry. They weren't brewers to start, but they had this great idea, this notion of brewing beers on the Central Coast, but most importantly, they had the concept of barrel fermented ales. And so Adam and David really were quite, instrumental in barrels re-entering the brewing field, and that's a really cool part about our brewery. It's part of the DNA that is still with us. I would say, in terms of our philosophical underpinnings, it's really rooted in 101 brewing. It really starts with awesome raw materials, and I know everyone says that, but we go to great lengths to source our hops. Brewing-wise, we really try to keep it simple, keep it clean, and really understand the science behind what we're doing. So as a result, our lab is 12 people strong, and an integral part of the process. If I had to talk about some of the other favorite parts of my brewery outside of this barrel room, I would certainly lead me to the cellar, because I strongly believe that wort is made in the brew house, but beer is made in the cellar. We certainly have leaned on technology, but we always keep a mind for craft in the process. We still dry hop kind of the old-fashioned way, bringing hops to the top. But when the fermenters get larger, we've had to employ things like hop cannons to get the hops there. And we have stand pipes and all the things that get us around the use of hops and making a really good beer that's not over-processed, that really showcases those hops. Really stoked on this collaboration. Of course, it was a virtual collaboration, so we didn't get to work shoulder to shoulder in the brewery, but we worked with Felons. Because we're a West Coast brewery, we chose to make a big, bold double IPA. I think initially we were thinking pretty old school, taking it back to the roots, but we put a couple twists in there. One, we focused on a couple new hop varieties. One of them is Idaho Gem, a hop that I've really fallen in love with. It's got some cool tropical fruit-driven notes that kind of make it a little more new school than what might have been used in some of the older double IPAs. The other twist is using cane juice, so basically unprocessed cane juice as the adjunct, the sugar adjunct. One, we were hoping that would lean the beer out maybe a little bit, but also add some complexity from that raw material. So I'm really stoked on that. I think it was a cool recipe concept, and really both breweries got to participate in the formulation process. Can't wait to taste it. All right, everyone. Well, once again, we wish we could be there with you, but are certainly very stoked to be a part of this collaboration process. From everyone here at Firestone Walker Brewing Company, we wish you a great event. Thanks for including us, and cheers.
Hey guys, hey, thanks for watching. My name's Tom Champion. I'm the head brewer here at Felons Brewing Co. Quick bit about me. I've been in the brewing game for just over 10 years now, with a bunch of some pretty cool breweries around the world, and landed on my feet here in Brisbane at Felons, and super excited about this beer today. Have a little chat to you about it, a collaboration we've done with our friends at Firestone Walker. So this beer, this is what we're calling a New Coast double IPA. So our approach for this beer, obviously a collab with Firestone. We jumped on the Zoom call with Matt Brindleson, absolute legend. Hope you're watching, Matt. And we decided, you know, there's these two movements of IPAs in the industry in the States. You've got the classic West Coast style IPA, which is that piney, resinous backbone. You know, we've all had quite a few of them, I'm sure. And then this new wave of your what was Neepers, Hazies, Juicies, sort of like an East Coast version of the IPA that is arguably quite different to the West Coast variation. And we wanted to take elements of both of those and bring them together into a beer that is quite different to what we've ever had before, and I'm sure you can get around the world. I'm absolutely stoked with the outcome here. So we've used a hop called Idaho Gem upon recommendation from Matt at Firestone. He said it's the next big thing that's happening there. Couldn't get it in Australia yet, so we had to air freight some in. And it's giving this beautiful mango-y papaya, you know, these tropical fruits that I haven't quite seen showcased in a beer really prominently yet. And combine that, we added a local adjunct in the form of Queensland sugarcane juice to get that ABV and a little bit of residual sweetness up. And it's created this beautiful nectar-like beer that has that sweetness and those beautiful juicy aromas of the East Coast variant. But when you have a sip, you get that beautiful bitter, piney resin that comes through on the palate. It's just so familiar to those that love the West Coast IPA.
Awesome. Tom, what are you getting on the nose there, mate?
Like I said, that mango for me is super prominent. So I'm getting a lot of that coming through. General stone fruit, some melon there for sure, honeydew melon, papaya. Yeah, all of those like nectary, fleshy sort of fruits coming through. Less of the classic, you know, pineapple, passion fruit. Not seeing a lot of that in this beer. It's more pronounced on those fleshy, juicy fruits coming through.
Awesome. One of the other brewers was saying there's a bit of a wild berry kind of character in there.
Yeah,
do you think that's...
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely there. And I think that's sort of like where it's maybe treading the line between the West Coast and that East Coast style, that berry sort of aroma. You know, I haven't experienced in a lot of these big juicy beers. It's always the mango and stone fruit. So yeah, it's definitely present. There's some complexity there, which is surprising for normally a single hop beer. It can be a little one-dimensional, but this is, you know, this thing's four-dimensional. I'll tell you that.
Cool, man. And, you know, from a food pairing perspective, what would you think this beer would pair well with?
I'm a bit old school, you know, so that the old pairing with big hoppy alcoholic beers that I was always taught is that it goes quite well with spicy food, and I've sort of followed that my whole life, and I do dig that sort of pairing. So I think with something like this, like quite a strong jungle curry, something like that, you know, quite a nice brothy sort of thing that has quite a bit of punch in the spice department that sort of cuts through all this sweetness and bitterness. It is such a strong beer, so I think you need something quite punchy to get through and support it.
Awesome. Now, did you know the guys at Firestone before we did this collaboration? Can you tell us a little bit about them?
I knew Matt, he didn't know me. I'm just a massive fanboy. So I'd seen him, I think it was Indies judging maybe 1 or 2 years ago. I'd met him, got my photo with him. I think was too scared to ask for an autograph. So up until that point, that's the only time I met Matt and had a beer with him around that time. But yeah, we fortunately had got a good hour of his time in the lead up to all this just to sit down and have a chat about all things beer, and what a wealth of knowledge, man. Guy's an absolute legend. So what a treat for us to get paired up.
And any of the Firestone beers you've had in the past?
I've had heaps of Firestone. Their barrel age program is probably second to none, I think. And when you hear Matt talk about barrels, you can see why. He's done such a great job, so educated in that space. I haven't tried their Flyjack, which is on my radar. I want to give that a go because I feel like that might be interesting for them to, you know, go for something a bit more subtle, a bit more straightforward.
Yeah, awesome. What were the biggest challenges of doing a collab like this, Tom?
Obviously, COVID makes collaboration pretty bloody difficult. So it's all done via correspondence. So it's not the same as when you get two parties together in the brewery, holding ingredients, smelling ingredients, having a beer together, letting those juices flow. So for me, that was the biggest struggle, just to, you know, a few Zoom calls and emails and structure a recipe and design it around that. But, you know, we make it work in the environment we're in. We had a great time doing it.
Awesome. Anything that the good people of Australia that have purchased this Carwyn Collaborational pack and experiencing the virtual festival, anything for those guys?
Thanks for the support. And you're in for a roller coaster, all right? Because this beer is an absolute cracker. And I'm sure, you know, the caliber of the other breweries in the mix, I'm sure every beer is going to be an absolute cracker. So, and you get to enjoy it from the comfort of your own home. So how good is that?
If there was a song that you'd listen to while drinking this beer, Tom, what would it be?
Oh, I think Queen, We Will Rock You. That's what I listen to.
Hi, I'm Matt from Boat Rocker Brewers and Distillers, and the beer you're drinking today is Windmills and Weather Vanes, which is our collab with De Molen from the Netherlands, who are an absolute legend in the brewing world, and we were ecstatic that Carwyn teamed us up with this amazing brewery. It's a mole-ish imperial stout-ish, so it's inspired by the classic Mexican mole sauce, and it's imperial stout-ish. So it's got really fantastic notes of all the ingredients we put in, and I'll run through exactly how we made this beer. De Molen and Boat Rocker are really well known for their barrel age program and doing lots of dark beers in barrels, and this beer, if the pandemic hadn't gotten away, this would have been a barrel aged mole-ish, imperial stout-ish, which we will be doing another batch, but that's going to be released in at least 12 months. So that's something to look out for. But how we approach this, really with pandemic, everything is via email, and that's how we had our conversations on what to put into it, how to build it, and what we should really do with it. We wanted to get some wood character in, and we collaborated with the idea of let's get an old bourbon barrel that we had lying around, and I freshly toasted it, so I got out the gas cooker and charred up some barrel staves to get extra char, and then we actually placed the whole barrel's worth of staves into the mash itself to try and get some of the vanillins that are released from the wood when you do toast it like that, which translated nicely into the beer. Then a mole is all about chilies. And Mexican chilies are not necessarily spicy. They can be very, very hot, but the ones we love and really wanted to get the flavor across that would complement some of the malts we chose are the darker chilies that, such as ancho, pasilla. There's a spicy one called morita, not super spicy, but just a little bit, just to have a touch of heat. But the main character we're after was the flavor of the chili to come through. And then another thing in the mole sauce is chocolate. So we sourced 10 kilos of organic cacao nibs from Peru. We put them in the basically ran it through a hop back where we ran the finished beer through. The chilies went in hot side at the very end of the boil. We didn't really want to boil them for long. We just wanted to extract maximum flavor, almost like a tea, using the wort. And then we had cinnamon quills and vanilla beans. So we used whole vanilla beans, 40 of them, cut them lengthways, and then ran the beer through them. And then also the cinnamon quills, 150 cinnamon quills, which were crushed up, and then again ran the beer through on cold side. So the result is a really quite fantastic beer, if I do say so. Really delicious, and I think it has this hint of chili. You get some earthy, leathery notes coming through. I'm going to pour it so I can actually run you through all the tasting notes that I pick up. So it's a beautiful colour, lovely rich head, and aromatically, straight away I get some of these earthy, smoky, chili notes coming through. You get the cacao, chocolate, dark chocolate, almost like the 90% couverture chocolate, and then a little hint of the cinnamon, just like a light sprinkle that comes across. On the palate, it's a really complex array of flavours coming from chilies, all of the flavours, the malt's working really well. Some of the malts we used, and one of the things that I've always, every time we make a beer, we chew on the malts. And one of the things that was a Weimann malt, which is from Germany, but they make this beautiful Caramunic that has these notes of leather and tobacco. And some of the chili characters, the anchos especially, have this dark, leathery, earthy, tobacco-y quality about them as well. And I think they just really complement wonderfully in this beer. It's not super sweet, but it's just balanced. A tiny tickle of heat, some nice spicing, and it's got that almost slightly classic chocolate cacao character as well. Definitely recommend drinking this not chilled. We're in Melbourne at the end of winter, so it's not warm, but it's not cold either. Probably sitting around 10, 11, 12 degrees Celsius, and drinks absolutely incredibly. I'd be recommending meal paired with this. Something Mexican would be good. A 7 chili. The sweetness will balance out the heat from the chilies you use. There's a fantastic recipe on Google called 7 chili. If you look it up, involves 7 different chilies and cooked for nearly 7 hours. It's an amazing dish, which is so complex, and it uses chocolate as well. You could even, and beer, so you could actually put this beer, but I'd use something else, because drink this beer with that dish, without a doubt. So Dumoulin have been idols of ours for years. They've been around for a very long time, really starting out in a small little brew pub. Dumoulin means the mill, hence the name Windmills and Weather Vanes. Their logo is a windmill, and ours is a weather vane. They've been knocking out bourbon barrel-aged stouts, every type of barrel-aged anything really, and doing an amazing job. They're probably one of the most, when people think of barrels and beer, their name is always up there, and we've idolised them for a long time, always enjoying their incredible range of beers. We were lucky enough to meet one of the brewers, Emily, who actually has a bar up in Brisbane. Done a number of events there, and we've always been talking about let's do a collaboration, and it really came about. Carwyn sort of had a good chat with them as well, and it snowballed from there, and here we are with a beer. We would have loved to have been able to go across, or have them come across to Melbourne and collaborate on this brew, and hopefully one day we can go over there and do another one. But in the meantime, everything was done via the internet, so without that, with the pandemic, we would have been stuffed, but we had great conversations going backwards and forwards about what we're going to use, ingredients, malts, what we can access here, and I think the result is really quite stunning. And a big thanks to Duval for putting in the time and effort over there. Everyone's had their own issues through the pandemic, so hopefully we can start international travel in the not too distant future, and we can have a beer to catch up with them.
Your love is a stranger all the time behind these.
Hi everyone in Australia, welcome to Brewer de Molen in Bodegraven in the Netherlands. I'm Emily Tanky, I work as a brewer here at de Molen, and today I'm going to take you on a tour of our brewery. I work here under the direction of our founder, Menno Olivier, who will tell you that he started homebrewing as a pots and pans homebrewer before starting a brow cafe in his garage called the Salamander. But after that, you can see down the road, about 60 metres, is the Archdaf windmill, which is where Brewer de Molen got its name, and that's where Menno started originally back in 2014. Now, today we have our modern day production facility from our brew house through to our packaging facility, and down the end is where we keep our barrels. So we'll go inside and I'll show you, starting off with the brew kit. I think one of the important things to know about our brewery is that right from the very get-go, when Menno started the brewery, he also made a relationship with an organisation called the Philadelphia Stichting for people with disabilities, and since that day in 2004, the Philadelphia group have been part of the fabric of the brewery and do a lot of the hard lifting for us. This is what they say where the magic happens. Today we finished up a brew of Bonnet Crennan, our barley wine. This is our brew kit: mash, water, boil, whirlpool, as well as some of our fermentation tanks, our pasteurizer, our yeast starters, hot water tank. Another interesting fact about the brewery is that people here seem to have a deep love of Star Wars. And you see that all of our tanks are named after Star Wars characters. But over the other side, we have most of our fermentation tanks, as well as our centrifuge and our filling line. A lot of the staff members here have been here for over 10 years. I'm one of the newest ones. We have our centrifuge and our carbonation and flush pasteurization unit, as well as a lot of our filling tanks, fermentation tanks, also with our lovely Padme names, and the giant Ray, who got special treatment. Further down we have our filling line, run by Carl over in the background. Carlo's been here, actually, if we go back, Carl's been here from the very start, and one of the things I find funny is that Carl used to have to start filling on this small 4-bottle filling line we call the Bic, and I think Carl is pretty grateful that he no longer has to use it. Would you say it's one of the best changes, Carl?
What?
That you no longer have to use the Bic?
That's awesome that I don't have to use it anymore. It just reminded me of my nightmare.
Yeah, it was a nightmare to use. So, from the very get-go, Carl's been here, and he's seen a lot of the changes at de Molen, and I'm sure that the Bic is probably his favourite. So now this is our filling line. This is where the Philadelphia organisation spend most of their time. They do a lot of our filling, as well as the dipping in the tops of our barrel-aged beers, and they also work upstairs in folding boxes and just general helping around. Now we have the warehouse component of our brewery, where most of our beers are stored and then shipped out by Cornet. Cornet's been here for 12 years. You been here for 12 years?
No.
Not that long?
No.
How long have you been here?
1st of December, 10 years.
1st of December, 10 years, so not quite, but a pretty good stint, I'd say.
if you look down here, this is where all our malt gets kept, our dry storage. The folks at Carwyn asked what my favourite part of the brewery is, and if we go upstairs, I'll show you. We have, I think one of the loveliest parts about working in Dumoulin is that not only do we get to work so close to the windmill where it all started, where the name came from, but around the brewery, when you walk around, you get to see so many little nods to where Menno first began. If you look over in the back, you can see the flag for Olivier's beer advice. So when Menno first started, he used to, you know, he's a very knowledgeable man. People would come to him and he'd give them advice. But my very favourite part is over the back here. There is a private stash of beers. I can very old beers. I never touch them, but I love to look at them with the original labels. And this is Menno's private stash. So it's one of my favorite parts of the brewery. And just a nod to where it all began, I guess, so many years ago. I don't want to call it so many years ago, because Menno's not that old, but a few years ago. And that sort of brings us to the end of the most important part, except for now we have to go down to our barrel room, and that seems to be everyone's favorite part. I really like the barrel room when it's empty. That generally means that most of the barrel-aged beers are sitting in kegs and bottles ready for consumption. I guess my favorite parts of the brewery, apart from the warehouse upstairs with the little nods to our past, are very seasonal. In the winter time when it's snowing outside here, I love being in the brewery right next to the boil kettle. It's nice and toasty. But in the summer, when it gets up to 25 degrees in Holland and people consider it a heat wave, I really enjoy our cold room, walk-in cold room with all of our hops. So, but you can find most of us in there in the summertime eating an ice block. These are the boys, busy at work. Hey, Ma. Making a video for Australia. And here you have our barrel room, with not as many barrels in it as we usually have, because over the summertime we just emptied them. So in the next coming months we will fill it up again, the whole centre. And over in the back, behind the forklift, you can see Menno's first brew kit, what we were brewing on before we have our modern day production facility. So, I hope you've enjoyed the tour of Dumoulin. I hope you enjoy the collaboration beer we made. For me, it's a dream come true. I'm a massive fan of Boat Rocker, so I don't know if you've ever met Matt, but he's probably one of the nicest and most knowledgeable guys in the industry. And to be able to make a beer with them, it's pretty special. So I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you have a great festival. Bye.
It's a tough job for the host, Michelle, to try and steer this interview back on track every 2 seconds.
I'll try my best. Hi everyone, welcome to Carwyn's virtual International Beer Festival. Today I am here with Adam Betts of Edge Brewing Project. He is right here in Melbourne, Australia, and also we are very lucky to have Christian Andersen of Beer Here Brewery in Bornholm, Denmark. We've all known each other for a very long time, and there's a lot of history and a lot of stories. Briefly, tell me, how did this beautiful little bromance get started between the two of you? So who chased who courted who?
I was definitely Christian who chased me, if I...
No, that's not how I remember it.
But either way, the love, has blossomed since between all four of us. Jess is somewhere in the background. You'll see her probably pop her head around soon.
Yeah, pop your head around.
Ah, there she is. Hi, Jess.
Creepy wave.
All right, tell me what inspired both of you to start Beer Here and to start Edge Brewing.
I'll quickly. Edge was actually started with Christian. Funnily enough, we did. I can't remember now. The first time, maybe 4 or 5 brews or something together. Started the brand together. basically both at the time, Christian didn't have a physical brewery, both sort of traveling gypsy brewers as it was.
Yeah, I started beer here just because I needed a hobby. It then kind of took off from there.
And what has kept you sane during lockdown?
Nothing. I've pretty much gone insane.
Yeah, we haven't had any lockdown here. Our customers, bars and restaurants, has to close at 10 p.m. now. That's been in effect for a month or so. But otherwise, for us, it's been business as usual and probably a bit more busy than normal, like 3 times more busy than last year. Because we are where we're located, the outside area, outside the brewery, it's public property, which means it's not included in any rules at all. So it's just drinking in public is still legal, and outside this doorstep of the brewery is public space. So it's been very good for us.
So Christian, you've obviously been a brewer now for some years. How would you describe your approach to brewing?
I don't think so much about it. I mean, I finished the brew this morning at 5 a.m. because I was taking it easy. I was supposed to finish a few hours earlier, but yeah, taking it easy. And it's actually nice getting back to brewing after a whole summer of just taking care of the tap room and the shop.
Now tell me about your labels. You hand draw them yourself. And do the labels come first or does the beer come first? And in addition to that, have you had any interesting feedback about them?
Yeah, it's always the beer that comes first. And then I try to come up with a label that matches the contents of the bottle. And yeah, I had a few, I had a bit of feedback, mainly negative though.
I've read a few articles that your labels had made like the most offensive labels of all time lists throughout the world.
I got 6 out of 21 of the most offensive labels ever. So I'm very proud of that.
That's quite an achievement. And how do you decide on your next beer release?
That's a good question. I'm in a bit of a strange position that there's a lot of breweries in Denmark now, 230 for a population of 5 million. But I'm trying to see if I can find another niche. And obviously the sour beers we've been doing for the last 5 years is starting to take off as well.
And Adam, how would you describe your approach to brewing?
Yeah, we sort of brew naturally. So as you know, a lot of craft brewers do, but so all whole fruits. You know, we don't filter, we don't pasteurize. Everything goes in, any additions go in cold side for us to avoid any sort of heat treatment with stewing any fresh fruit and all that kind of vibe. And yeah, I guess we keep a pretty minimalist approach, I would say.
And what does the future of Edge look like?
Yeah, wow. Lockdown's throwing a couple of spanners in the works, but not necessarily in a bad way. I've been firing up this old pilot brewery in the background, which we haven't used for some time, but converting it now to do some trial batches of sake. So that is most likely going to be coming up shortly on a larger commercial scale for Edge.
I'm going to ask you some more fun questions, I guess you could say. Like, I think we've gotten rid of all the formalities. So Christian, your beautiful brewery is on a waterfront property on an island, Bornholm. Could you describe Bornholm to me like it was an ad for tourism to Australians?
Yeah, it's basically one of our last colonies. So it's a small rock island in the middle of the Baltic between Poland and Sweden that Denmark got in the 16th century. And it is very different from the rest of the country, which is mainly flat. West Bornholm has a very varied climate and nature, and of course is surrounded by water. And it's quite small. It's only like 900 square kilometers and 40,000 people. So it's really far away from everything. Was that a good commercial?
Yeah, makes me want to go there.
Yeah, you've been there.
I want to go back. Now, actually, thank you for bringing that up. The last time I was there, I was told that there is a man shortage on the island. Could you explain that and also give us an update on how that's going?
Yeah, it's still an issue. The thing is that it's extremely cheap to buy property here. So once women in Copenhagen get divorced, they move to Bornholm so they can have a cheap house. It's very popular. It's a very dangerous territory for attractive young men like Adam and me.
Now at a beer festival, beer here has a bit of a reputation. Could you tell us a little bit about what people can expect to see when they come and visit a beer here stand?
Now, we had a tradition a few years back at the big beer festival in Copenhagen that after 11 p.m. we would go full naked behind the stand, just with an apron. And it's a beautiful sight. It's actually available to watch on our Facebook page if somebody has the urge to see my hairy ass.
One more, your wife, your better half, Jess, who was in the shot earlier, is the founder and head brewer of Pennyland Brewery. Now, in your opinion, and be honest, and I also know that she's probably in earshot of you, who's the better brewer and why?
Brewing is not that hard. It's basically just mixing ingredients together. But she definitely has the better palate of the two of us in many ways. And which is the important part when we're doing all the blending and barrel aging that we're doing now. Obviously, when it comes to the brewing part, I have a lot more experience than her. I have a head start, so to say. But I think we are a good team in that way.
That is a very, very safe answer, Christian.
Oh my goodness, that was so diplomatic. That's a gold star. I hope Jess
she's
heard
gone.
that.
She's gone now. I'm obviously much better.
Now, Adam,
yeah,
tell us all about this romantic work trip that you and Christian had in New Zealand.
Oh shit, which one? I think that was our first overseas trip, off memory, maybe. There's probably a lot of stuff that's not suitable to say on video. But yes, it was a great trip and lots of adventures happened.
I do recall a photograph of you guys in the mountain in a field of daisies.
That's right. It was actually I was super hungover and Christian decided at 7 a.m. or some stupid hour that it would be a nice idea to go for a hike. It snowed when we got to the top of the mountain, so yeah, we had a backpack with a couple of beers to have at the summit, and that was where the romance all started.
Yeah, it was just after you tried to drown me in a river.
Adam, would you ever move to Bornholm, the island that Christian is on, and start a brewery with him?
I would start a brewery.
No, you wouldn't.
Yes, I would. Would I move to Bornholm? No. It is a beautiful place. We're fortunate enough to have gone there, I don't know, 3 times or so. Touch to what's the word I'm looking for? Boring for me. It's lovely. It's lovely when you're at retirement age, Christian's age.
Adam, have you ever fallen asleep in the Edge van during a beer festival? And I'm saying fallen asleep.
I have been known to enjoy a few beverages while working beer festivals, and occasionally go for a little power nap and tag team someone else in.
So it's true.
Yes.
The whole reason all 3 of us are here is for the beer that's inside of your Carwyn Collaborational box. Nope, wrong one, Adam. So this is the beer that Adam and Christian here collaborated on to produce. How did you approach, first of all, this style of beer or the ingredient, the strawberry gum?
Last time I was in Australia, I took a bag of it, just like half a kilo or something like that, because I thought it would be fun to try out. And we made a beer with it in the brewery, a saison, and it just stank up the whole brewery. And it's quite amazing how much aroma there's in it and how strange it is, because it's called strawberry gum tree, but it doesn't actually smell like strawberry. I think it smells like something like between cinnamon and strawberry, and I think that worked really well in the song. So I suggest to Adam we might give that a try.
You know, we've got some similar sort of styles of beer we brew, but we've also got quite some differences. And this sort of fitted in perfectly with sort of what we're both looking for in the collab. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think we both enjoy the songs, especially the really dry ones.
Yeah, definitely.
Excellent. Well, I think you've nailed the dryness in this. This is incredibly crisp and refreshing and very, very dry.
Yeah,
I can't wait to taste it.
Well, my next question hopefully will help you out a little bit, Christian. I'm going to ask Adam to, well, try the beer first of all, and then tell me describe the beer to me in his most pretentious tasting notes that he can possibly give to our audience today. And then Christian, I want you to pay attention and tell me if that sounds like the beer that you both designed together. Go ahead, Adam.
This invigorating ale exhibits escalating notes of eucalypt koala warmth, lashings of wild berry tea, overtones of fruity esters, and a careful whisper of ground white pepper, invoking distant childhood memories of hiking through the bushy outback with your first high school sweetheart.
But my first high school sweetheart had a bushy outback.
Oh God. That was great, Adam. Thank you very much. Did that sound like the beer that you designed together?
For sure. Spot on.
What would you pair it with food-wise, Adam?
You want me to answer a serious question after that? Actually, we had it the other night. We cooked up some steamed mussels, white wine, chili garlic broth, super simple, and it paired perfectly.
Christian, do you want to share that meal with Adam? Does that sound delicious?
I would definitely do that. I know Adam is a great cook, so obviously I would love to try that.
Oh, that was...
Wait, where'd you hear that?
I might even survive.
I'm very good at ordering Uber Eats.
I was going to say, he's a good brewer, but I wouldn't say he's a good cook.
Yeah. Like, lockdown's the only time I've ever actually started cooking, so...
Now, what were the biggest challenges of doing a collaboration like this?
Working with that guy.
Language barrier.
Yeah, my English is terrible. Sorry about that.
Now, you've had collabs in the past, Edge and B here. You've made beer before. So can we expect to see more collaborations in the future?
As soon as you guys get your ass over here, I think you should make a collab.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's for us, we don't really like brewing with you, but it's a tax write-off for our holiday, so we'll do another collab.
Yeah, to be fair, you don't really brew anyway, so you just sit around laptoping.
That's true, but I do drink as much as I can while I laptop, so.
Yeah, that's the least you can do.
Yeah.
Break into
mainly Jess's beers,
strangers'
though,
houses.
That beer is, let's be honest, pretty crap stuff.
Yeah, it's too manly for you.
I want to run through a bit of a lightning round. So I'm going to rattle off 10 questions. They're just random questions, and it's going to be like 1 or 2 word answers. Just yell out your answer, and I don't want you to think about it. Okay?
That's how I usually answer, so that's easy.
Without thinking. First question. What is your drink of choice if no one was looking?
Guinness for me. Always drink it.
Same here. But I don't mind if people are looking. I still love a Guinness.
What is your go-to hangover cure, and does it actually work?
I never had a hangover in my life, so I don't know how it feels.
What?
Yeah, the secret is not getting sober.
Yeah, I get terrible hangovers, but persevere. Nasty pears don't really help, but I still pretend. Bloody Marys, that's about all.
Now, do you have any special talents, any party tricks that keep it PG?
Christian, I've heard you.
Yep.
I heard you can do puppetry of the penis.
No, I can recite the pi with 32 decimals. You want to hear?
Not really.
3.141592653538. I can't do it in English. I'm good at it in Danish. And people are usually going crazy. Okay, 3,452. Nice. Don't worry, moving on. It's a shit party trick, okay?
A few more beers, I think it would help. Have you ever brewed a beer that you can drink for the rest of your life?
No.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, cool hops. The
#1 in the world, I hear.
The best pale lager in the world, according to ratebeer.com.
Yeah, but yeah, for me,
thanks for that plug.
Usually lager for me.
Okay.
Super bone dry, 0 gravity, 4.8%, and yeah.
Brilliant. Now, if you were an open Danish sandwich, what would be your toppings?
What? Say that again.
If you were a smørrebrød, what would be your toppings?
I wasn't even going to try and pronounce that.
A wilted lettuce leaf?
I think caramelized onions, pickled rhubarb, and pubic hair.
The Christian special. Fabulous. Now, would you say that beer is your greatest love?
Oh shit, that's a loaded question.
Yeah.
Both our partners with us right now watching this. Sorry, what was that? It's breaking up.
On refusal to
Moving
answer.
on.
Awesome. Well, that was our lightning round. Actually, before we go, I wanted to just ask Christian, what beer is he currently enjoying through this video?
I'm actually enjoying a beer that I was inspired from my mini trips to Australia. This one, it's a Australian ESB. So it's a big malt bump. I know Adam would hate it with a passion, but I like malt.
So you would say you pretty much know each other's palate as well?
Not that way.
Yeah, Christian's got an old man, boring beer palate, basically, and I've got a young, exciting palate. I think
Yeah, like the hard seltzer generation.
Well, on that note, I wanted to thank everybody or you guys for entertaining my questions, and thanks to everybody for tuning in.
Yeah.
We really
please,
hope you
please,
enjoy.
please edit.
Yeah, we'll definitely edit. But please enjoy the beer that's in the Carwyn Collaborational box, the Native Leaf Strawberry Gum Saison. Thanks, you guys. I think I'm going to go to bed because it's like 2 o'clock in the morning here.
Hey party people, my name is Lee Cleghorn, co-founder and head brewer at Outer Range Brewing Company in Colorado. We're super excited to be part of the festival this year. We'd love to be down there in person. Couldn't make it happen this year, but we can party alone together. We're really excited about our collaboration with our friends at Deeds Brewing. Those guys are making amazing beer, and we're excited about the recipe we came up with together. I wanted to take a little time, talk to you about our brewery, where we're from, what we think about when we think about beer. We're in the Rocky Mountains in Colorado, surrounded by a bunch of ski resorts. We've got a bunch of great friends out here that also make incredible beer. Colorado is a wonderful state for beer. We got friends at Casey, Weldworks, Cerebral, among dozens of other breweries that are just putting out incredible beer. If you guys come visit us, come visit them. We make a lot of IPAs, and as you probably know, Americans are really obsessed with a lot of the hops that you all grow in the Southern Hemisphere. And we use a lot of those in our beers, a lot of hazy IPAs, double IPAs, with the amazing hops that you all produce. Our philosophy around beer really is to showcase what
all the amazing ingredient suppliers are putting on the market. What the hop growers have been producing and providing to us is really incredible. So we think about hops like paint on a canvas, and we try to put out as many hop flavor or hop forward beers as we can, because that's what we really love, and that's what our customers love. One of the things we're really happy about with this festival is we actually sent down our hand-selected Citra Cryo hops to Deeds Brewing, and they use that in the beer that you all are going to drink down there. So even though we're alone, we can party together.
Hi everyone, just a quick update from the control room. My name's Luke. I've been behind the scenes kind of making sure everything's working, and hopefully it's still working for you out there while I'm doing this. Just an update on where everything's at the moment, because there's a lot of beers and a lot of stuff to get through, and you know, a reminder that you don't need to drink every beer as we go through this. You can come back to things or skip one and drink it later on while you're watching the grand final. But we've got Justin from Deeds back later on as part of the roundtable chat with James from the Crafty Pint. There's a few brewers on that. We'll update who that is going to be in the chat comments, but that's going to be really cool. Plus, there's more bonus content going live on this channel as well. If you click to the videos of the channel once this is all done, and that has a technical breakdown of the brewing process with the Deeds and Outer Range collab. Also remember, if you use the hashtag collaborational at home, you can win a chance to win a Canvent calendar, which is Carwyn's advent calendar with 24 unique cans by 100% independent Australian brewers. That's a pretty good prize. Yeah, win a Canvent calendar. It's sold out. Am I eligible for that if I use the hashtag? Also, up next at 2 o'clock, we've got Joss, who's the co-founder of Garage Project, and Steve Finney, the general manager of Otherside Brewing, to talk about their collaborational beer. This one will be live with via YouTube, so you can, if you're in the YouTube now, you can ask your comments, ask your questions in the comments. Also, we've got some pre-recorded interviews. We've got Will Zabel from the Crafty Pint. He's chatting to One Drop and Cascade, and we've got one with Mr. Banks and Interboro with me. And then there's a behind the scenes with Hawkers and Bale Breakers. So some pretty cool content. And as I said, if you miss anything or you want to go back and drink the beer while watching the interviews, you can just pause and come back. And then at 3:30 we've got the live chat. Also, as I said, there's a lot of beers, so stay hydrated out there. Drink water while you're drinking the beers. And I also just want to give a shout out to my pals Begsy and Rosie, who I know I'm assuming are watching, and I bet they're pretty nervous about the AFL tonight. Anyway, thanks for joining us. And a reminder, this is being hosted on the Beer Together channel. We've got some pretty regular content, some Thursday beer news, and Have a Beer Guest of the Year. So I don't know, like and subscribe and join us for some of that. But for now, we're going to take a short break. You've got about 20 minutes. Go to the bathroom, get something to eat, do all the things you need to do. And we'll be back with a live chat at 2 o'clock. Thanks, everyone.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to Carwyn Cellars for, I think we're roughly at the midpoint of the collaborational now. I'm joined by some friends from WA and from New Zealand, effectively our freedom friends, who are enjoying COVID-free life as if the past year has never happened. We have Reese and Finney from Otherside in WA. G'day guys.
Hey.
And we have Joss from Garage Project in Wellington. I guess we may as well get it out of the way. What's it like living a normal life?
Good. I mean, the sun's shining today, so both Vinny and I are getting attacked by hay fever. You know, it's all pretty normal, hey?
And if Reese is to step one foot sideways, you'll see an open venue with consumers coming through the door, enjoying a beer in 30-degree weather.
Yeah,
beautiful.
It's coming through now.
And apart from the not having 30-degree weather, is it similar with you, Joss?
We always say you can't beat Wellington on a good day, and it is a good day today. So yeah, the city's pumping. We've got Wellington on a plate at the moment, so there's a huge amount of events on throughout the city. So we're very lucky. And also hoping you guys get to the situation very soon as well.
Yeah, no, we're hoping for good news. Good news tomorrow. Now, what I'm told, you guys are good mates that go back a while, and you'd actually been looking to make a beer together for a while. Is that true? Or have I been misfed information?
No, absolutely. So, yeah, I've known Steve for a long time now. You know, the first and only time I've actually been out to Perth. Steve showed me around Ferrell, where he was at the time, and gave me a great tour of the city. And we always cross paths at the festivals. He's been over here a few times, and yeah, I think always been looking for that opportunity to do a project together.
Did he take you to any techno nights at the harness racing club? Also, you know, so when that would have been what? When were you at Ferrell, Finney? Good 5, 6, 7 years ago.
So finished up at Ferrell probably just about three months before the CCA buyout, and basically it was just time to sort of move on, and you know, I had a really great time at Ferrell and a lot of fun and made a lot of friends. It's an 18th birthday this weekend, so
yeah.
It's nice to see my my little ute manage to hit the 18th birthday double IPA label. And yeah, I guess that's where I first met Joz, and you know, we're basically going back to the days where we, including yourself, were always on tour. Yeah, it was always good to see that Kiwi face over in Melbourne and Sydney.
Yeah. So tell us, how did this come about then? Did you guys suggest getting together to make this beer, or were you put together by the Carwyn crew? Like, how did Bubbles start out?
Do you want to go, Joz, or
go for it?
So I probably started out, you know, sort of talking about it. It would have been sort of October, November last year, when the two Bens called me up. I was actually I was at the can factory signing off our printed cans at the time, and they floated the idea of the Collaborational festival, and absolutely jumped at the bit to be part of that. And then part of the conversation was also, I guess, what brewery might you like to work with, or what brewery internationally do you have a good relationship? And it's kind of how the Garage Project and Otherside sort of came together. We'd also, we'd planned to, Reese and I were going to go over for hop harvest, to go freestyle hop farms. That was in May, and then follow on from the hop farms down to Happy Festival at GP in Wellington. We all sort of know that what happened. Obviously, we're not allowed to travel. It's probably more likely that you guys in Melbourne and New South Wales will be able to travel before us in WA, although things are fairly normal. So that's kind of the backstory of you know, how it came together. It would have been great if we were able to really discuss the recipe and you know, flesh it out a bit more whilst at Happy Festival, enjoying a couple of beers. I've had a couple of beers from the festival this week, and they've been absolutely outstanding.
So did you make a beer for the March date originally? Did you make a collab back then, or did you know early enough it wasn't going to be happening?
No, I mean, I remember actually finger on the trigger about to book flights. Wellington to Perth, you got that extra 3 hours to the East Coast, then got to carry on. And the flights can get quite pricey. And I remember jumping on and looking, and they're like, Air New Zealand had a sale on. I was on the phone to Pete, and I was like, just get on a flight. Like, it was like 2-3 days later we would have done it. And it never quite came together. We were in the lead up to Happy and Hop Harvest, and then the shit hit the fan, and it sort of, I think it all just went out the window for a while. But it was very good.
Because you guys had to cancel your festival as well, didn't you? I mean, was that just a complete sort of, there's no chance of doing anything like this online, I guess, because everything was so tied to the harvest. So was that just a complete, okay, we'll get some beers out of it, but we have to wait till next year?
We had, we had 50 plus international breweries lined up to come down and send us beer, and we basically had a sort of go no go of making the call on shipping the beer, and it just got, every day it just got too dicey whether or not we could actually even they could send the beer, but whether or not would it actually even arrive, because everything was changing so quickly. And then if we could have a gathering of that size, and so yeah, unfortunately went out the window. But I think virtual collaborations and festivals like this are great. Quite likely we'll be working to do something along these lines next year, because I think even March it's still going to be quite challenging to get people to
yeah, for sure. So tell us about Bubbles then. The beer style, what's in there, what you make of it.
Probably handball that one across to Reese, who is massively suffering from hay fever.
Yeah, I'm pretty sensitive this time of year.
It's all the pollen caught in his hair.
That's right, yeah, and the beard doesn't help either. So Bubbles is kind of like, I guess it's kind of like the middle ground between the kind of West Coast and the kind of hazy style of beer. Pours with a bit of haze to it, but not really going for that kind of thing. Quite low bitterness, massive dry hop. It's kind of an area that Otherside's been playing in for a while, but we've never really kind of perfected it to this level until we got the amazing Hopzo from Garage Project. It was touch and go there for a while because shipping was really hard, especially international stuff. The kind of infrastructure in Australia for all that kind of stuff was grinding to a halt. We had to reschedule it, 3 or 4 times. We came down to the last day that we could possibly brew this beer, and the hops arrived the day before. Managed to get it all done, have enough time in tank, and then get it out, at the last possible minute. But I think the Nelson solvent from Garage Project just really, really dominates this beer, really shines.
I think the one thing to add there is the hops actually cost us nearly $800 to get to WA from Freestyle. We basically bought them a plane seat and got them just in time.
So tell us a bit about Freestyle Hop Farm then, because I don't think too many people will know about Freestyle.
Sure. So, Freestyle is an independent hop farm down here in New Zealand. So they operate outside of the traditional New Zealand Hops Co-op. And there's a number of hop farms now sort of stepping away from the co-op and working directly with breweries. So, we like to have access to sort of specific lots and selection of where our hops have been grown, the day they've been harvested, sort of really pick the things we're looking for in the hops, and Freestyle are offering that to brewers, which is great. So they put a big investment into their palletization and processing, and they really care a lot about quality. So kind of a dream for us, being able to get that level of access. And we're also our partner in the Happy research breeding programs that we have underway as well.
And how big is Freestyle in terms of acreage, and what sort of varieties are they growing? Are they focusing on some of the more sort of popular Kiwi varieties and the experimental stuff?
Yep. So they're up to, I believe 150 hectares. In terms of scale, they are now one of the largest farms down here and growing quite quickly. Varieties: Nelson Sauvin, Motueka, Rewaka, sort of all of the classics. And then under Happy Research, we've got experimental varieties coming through. This coming season will be the first time we'll have at least one experimental at somewhat scale, and then it'll just go on from there. Yeah.
Nice. And I understand there's going to be a return brew as well. Is that right? So the same beer, or just a return collab of some other type?
Same beer. Like we're same as Reese and Finney. We're quite interested in this idea of, I think you guys called it West Coast Juicy. Is that? Yeah. Just sort of bringing back that a little bit more bitterness into that sort of East Coast style, keeping all that lovely hop expression, aroma, mouthfeel. So that's in our tanks already. So looking forward to releasing it.
Still called Bubbles?
100%. Yeah. So we were talking, we really are kind of just in our own little bubbles, brewing in bubbles. So it just seemed like the perfect name for it. And then the label, I don't know if you've got a can handy. It's Finney arranged. That's actually a local WA photographer who created bubbles for us with detergent. And
I think a bit of a funny story there is so James Simmons, who actually shot the photographs for me, is known as one of the best photographers in Perth. But generally at this time of year is doing a hell of a lot of wedding stuff. So it was really funny. I gave James a call and I'm like, James, I come up with this beer and this concept with Garage Project. He loves his beer as well, so he's on board. And basically the brief was, hey mate, do you reckon you could capture the trippy colours of detergent in bubbles? And basically this was the result. And at some stage we'll release the whole like all the studio shots from the actual label because they're absolutely just mesmerizing.
Yeah, well, that's pretty good. It wasn't the questions I was going to plan to ask, but you guys, I guess, have really been pushing the concept of label art and art. I guess the crossover between art and beer. I mean, is that something that you think has become increasingly important within the beer industry now?
I think that's one for Jaws because ultimately Garage Project's pioneered bringing art and beer together, and I think. Now, if we look at the world now, every craft beer can is wrapped in artwork of some description. So yeah, Joss.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we literally wrote the book on it. Which just yesterday one was named the best adult book from the New Zealand Book of Design Awards.
Awesome! Congratulations.
Yeah, some XXX adult publications.
I chose not to go there, Steve, but you didn't let us down.
I think we always want the beers to have a story, to sort of have their own personality, and that's what we're excited by and gravitate towards. And I think Steve's right now. It's hard not to find cans or bottles that don't have expressive art all over them. I think it's cool. I think it's part of the fun thing of working on a beer for us is that sort of collaboration, not just on the recipe, but also how it looks, how it might come out as a finished product. And I think it just sort of keeps it interesting the whole time. So for this particular one, we've done a huge amount of, obviously worked with a huge amount of artists, but we've never worked with a photographer. And we saw that Otherside had recently sponsored and supported a local photographer, and that just sparked an idea. It was like, well, why don't we use a photographer for this label? We've never done that, and it was a cool experience. And we've now actually used James for another project.
I've seen some of the photos, Joz, and they're just as mesmerising.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Well, on the subject of bubbles, the potential travel bubble. I see you guys just opened your Wild Workshop cellar door, so maybe people if us Aussies are allowed to leave the country and come and visit. What tell us a bit more about that?
Sure. So that's our urban wild mix spawn fermentation site in the heart of Wellington. We've been there for a number of years now, but it's just coming to that point where we wanted to open it up full time and allow people to come through, do tasting flights and experience what's going on there. We have a full cool ship, huge number of puncheons, fooders, you name it. So we've got a lot of toys in there, but sort of coming to a good milestone now. We've just bottled our first 1, 2, 3 spontaneous blends. So we're quite excited to release that. Yeah, it's a fun site. We do a lot of sort of wildflower ferments. And then we also make a not insignificant amount of wine in there as well. We've got a little basket press, and we have sort of 10, 12 tons put through there every harvest now from some vineyards we manage and farm down in Nelson.
Well, and talking of your fooder, I was told to ask about Harmonic Divergence, which sounds like a pretty intriguing new beer you've got coming out.
Yeah, so harmonic convergence is sort of I guess
Convergence, sorry.
foray into the sort of sour IPA. So we've fused what would normally be one of our super fresh hazy, so very significant, strong triple hazy IPA with foeder stock base beer. You know, it just brings that level of acidity into a beer. You know, when you think about fruit, there's obviously sugar, there's sweetness, but there's also acidity, and it's pretty remarkable. Like it really puts it into the fruit juice category. It's incredibly drinkable, and yeah, people are going a bit crazy for it. I think it'll not be the first beer we'll put out of that site, and we've started getting a canning line in there now, so we've got quite a few can releases coming through. We've got some can conditioned wild ales on the horizon as well.
Yeah, nice. And back with you guys in WA, I guess you've got the brewery side of the business and the venue side of the business. How have things sort of bounced back since lockdown ended over there? Are you still brewing at the Frio Social Brew Pub? Things, you know, it's obviously, from what I can tell, you've had 5,000 people at sessions at beer festivals, so I'm assuming like the music thing is coming back as well. How are you sort of set up with the two breweries at the minute?
At the moment, we're not brewing down at Frio Social. It's quite, it's a difficult space to work in when it's kind of like, you know, really forging ahead as a live music venue. If anyone's ever been there, it's directly behind the bar. So when we're open, like I can't be doing anything and stuff like that. At the moment, I think it's actually doing really well considering we can't get any interstate and international acts in. Like we're having a lot of like Perth has always been really prolific with local artists, particularly for the size of the population we have. We've got a lot of, you know, fantastic internationally recognized kind of acts that have come out of Perth and particularly Fremantle. So, you know, it's cool to get stuff like Pond and that coming in and playing in our home territory and then stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, considering we can't get anyone from the East Coast or internationally, it's been doing really well.
Yeah. Go on, Steve.
A key thing, Crafty, was is since our venues, and this goes for the whole of WA sort of trade, since the venues have reopened, everybody is doing really well. Everybody is, from a trade perspective, significantly up on last year. So I think that's like one thing for the venues over in Melbourne that are, you know, in lockdown, that are going through hard times. Once people are allowed to go back out, there has been a real boom. You know, I'd go to say another example is our live music venue, Frio Social. Frio Social, you know, ultimately is a 1,000-person live music venue, and that's where our connection to the arts comes from. Is, you know, it's live music, it's art and it's culture. It's what we stand for. But ultimately, we're still operating under 50% capacity, which is our rules for big venues. And tickets have never sold fast in Perth. We're all we all know that we can always get a ticket to whatever we want to go see, no matter how big the act is. But something that's happened since COVID is that sense of urgency and that sense of need to actually purchase a ticket has really increased. So, we even our shows where we're doing whether it's a swing jazz night or it's a cover band playing the 90s alternative music, through to Pond or San Cisco. Ultimately, those shows are all doing and performing quite well for at the reduced capacity.
That's great. I mean, I've heard similar things from other states that have been open to various degrees as well. I mean, some of them are still restricted by numbers, but generally people are keen to get back out. And I'm pretty sure there's a few people around here in Melbourne pretty keen to get out, hopefully in the next few days. What I think I was going to ask you about is, I guess, both of you guys have had a big focus on direct to customer sales this year. I think with Garage Project, you kicked it off before everything sort of went to shit. And Otherside, you were pretty quick to sort of, one of the things you switched to do. Is that something that was sort of always part of the plan for the business? Is it something you think is going to be increasingly part of the beer world going forward? And also, I guess, how do you manage that, in terms of relationships with, for example, Carwyn sellers who would have been selling, or probably are still selling a lot of, your beer, in the future as well?
Cool. Yeah. For us, having that direct reach and direct connection has always been important. So we've done that through cellar doors. Mm-hmm. And, the web store in New Zealand has been something we've had in place probably since day one. We have had a proper focus on it, I'd say, in the last few years, but that's more from us from an organization side. So we have dedicated cold room and pick and pack area for web store stock. And we wanted to bring that across to Australia as well. And so it wasn't until early March, I think maybe February, we had that in place in Melbourne. So we were fortunate in that respect to have it in place, but it doesn't take over independent bottle shops for us. We love the support and we love what they do. And there's a lot of people who want to still walk into their store and see a larger selection and get some advice. We see it working sort of hand in hand, and especially there's certain beers that sometimes it's not always possible to put out to trade, or you can be a little bit more selective with your direct to customer. And then, we also work quite hard to make sure we're brewing specific beers that are going to be just for trade or just going to a particular venue or channel.
Didn't it go so well for you guys at Otherside that within sort of a couple of weeks of the venues closing down, you were already back at capacity?
So I think ultimately we had our online store up and running within about 8 hours of the lockdown being announced. We were able to move extremely quickly in making sure that we could still get beer to people. We're seen as essential workers, which was great. And ultimately the brew team and sales team became closer, and from a team culture perspective, that was really, really great. The venues itself in WA, which were closed for about 3 months, probably going on 4. So it was quite a long period that we still, in comparison to what Victoria's gone through, that's obviously nothing, but at that time, it did feel like a long time. We'd ultimately lost, we're a brewery that strives to have a 50% keg to 50% pack rate. Obviously, a keg's dried up overnight. So really, it was still a really tough time, and there was a lot of changes that really had to be made to the brewery itself and how we did business.
Yeah, I was a delivery boy for about 6 weeks. I'm glad no one recognised me and wanted to show off their homebrew kit. I was knocking out a few dozen deliveries a day.
I managed to find a really, really, really good delivery. There was a guy who ordered 2 cartons of Anthem every week. It was about an hour and a half round trip, and there's a really, really good surf break next to it.
Well, I have to say, judging just by your Instagram, Finney, I don't reckon you do any work at all anyway. It's basically just, beat shots and your daughter. That seems to be it. And your car that's going to be ready in about 2046.
You're saying that it's going to be finished?
I was going to say, so one of the things that you guys have had in WA already, you've had Froth Town and you've had Perth Beer Fest. You've got Beervana coming up, delayed. I mean, I guess for you guys in WA, what was it like being back at the beer festival again? Was there a different vibe? You know, were there different restrictions in place, or did it just kind of flow as usual?
Yeah, so as a business, we've been actually really cautious with heading back to beer festivals. So we were part of the Perth Craft Beer Festival. However, we're not part of any upcoming festivals that are on the schedule. So I think there's a couple coming up. And that's really just at the end of the day, we've looked at our business and we're still kind of understaffed. We're running fairly lean as a business. So to take the sales team...
If you stop surfing as much, you'd be fine.
Mate, you don't get this tan by working. No, it's... So we're not currently part of the festival circuit at the moment. We're really focusing on our own venues, delivering a good experience at our venues, and also delivering a good experience for all of our customers.
And what's the story with Beervana? Is it going to be Beervana as anyone who's travelled from Australia to visit it would know, or are they having to change things up for next month's event?
Our understanding at the moment is it's full steam ahead. You know, we're at what we're calling level 1 here. You know, so we're, as you might have seen last weekend, you know, we had the All Blacks play the Wallabies and packed out stadiums. So you know, hopefully, I think we've been told it'll either go ahead under that level, or it won't. If we change for any reason, it won't happen. So I think you know, it's all guns blazing. Hopefully,
nice.
Yeah, we'll be back. Just putting the finishing touches to our stand and beers at the moment. And,
so what's the theme of the stand this time around? Because you guys always tend to do something pretty eye-catching.
I can't tip my hand this early.
Fair enough. I've been told to ask as well, how are Monty and Mila? Is it Mila, the Huskadors?
Yeah, they've just been taken for a walk, so they weren't not around. Or I can do something very janky. I'll show you a video from this morning. There you go.
There we go. Just to keep your main man here in Melbourne was keen to get an update on the dogs. Well, I think we're looking to wrap up pretty soon. Is that right, Luke? Mr. Behind the scenes strings puller. Just under a minute. Look at me. I'm never normally this efficient. No, well, I just want to say, thanks guys for being part of this. Look forward to catching up with you sometime soon, hopefully in the next few months, certainly within Australia. Enjoy the rest of the day. Enjoy Ferrell's 18th birthday celebrations this weekend. I'm assuming you'll be part of that, Finney. Reece, sadly, we've run out of time to talk about anarcho-syndicalism, so we'll have to save that for another time. To everyone at home, good luck remembering the grand final, going by the comments we can see in the live chat. And I'll be back here with Mazen, Matt from Boat Rocker, and Justin from Deeds Brewing in about an hour or so. Cheers, guys.
Cheers. Thank you.
Hey guys, I'm Nick from One Drop Brewing Company. I'm the head of production and innovation here. Today we're going to chat about our Carwyn Collaborational beer with Cascade from Portland, Oregon. Dragon fruit and kiwi fruit peach Berliner Weiss style ale. Our approach to this beer was fairly simple. We wanted a refreshing little number with a little bit of acid to cut through, something to break up the box. You know, there's a lot of other heavy beers in there. Working with Big Mike and the guys at Cascade, we knew we wanted to let this acid be the star of the show, but we wanted a bit of fruit to back that up. Anyone who's had a one-drop beer knows we put a lot of fruit in ours. Anyone who's had a Cascade beer knows, well, you've had a Cascade beer, you know. So we wanted to choose fruits that would both help the acid shine, and then we wanted another fruit that would kind of bring it all together and soften it slightly. So the idea of using dragon fruit and kiwi fruit together, you know, quite similar in taste. You get a lot of beautiful color from that dragon fruit. You get a little bit of acidity and a lot more flavor from the kiwi fruit. And the peach just really ties everything in together. Acid still being the star of the show, and you know, 2 types of lactobacillus and an acidic blend at the end do shine through. The beer itself, well, I'll crack one open now. I mean, it pours an absolute, I mean, look at that color. Like, that is just gorgeous. That kind of ruby pink almost. Dragon fruit, incredible little fruit to use. Great color, not a lot of flavor, which is why we backed it up with kiwi fruit and balance of peach. In terms of fruiting quantities, this is probably the lowest one drop has ever fruited a beer. But just the aroma and the flavor you get off it to tie it in as a nuance rather than a face full of fruit works super well. I mean, it's full, the peach kind of almost sticks around the mouth. There's a beautiful acidity. It dies off fairly quick, leaves a bit of flavor in the mouth, and you're ready for another sip. And that's what we wanted. Something, again, drinkable, something that would cut through the heavier beers. You know, I see this pairing quite well with like a heavy goat's cheese or blue cheese, something, an acidic component to cut through all the cheese. Even something sweet for dessert, tart, pie, even a brownie, you know, cut through that sweetness, add a bit of a fruit character, and then you can move on to more. I mean, even pair it with other beers. As I was saying, to really cut through the heavier stouts or some heavy IPAs, it's a good palate cleanser, so cheers to that. I think the biggest challenges of this beer were, in this collaboration, were the time zones and the time differences. The distance, and not being able to each other's breweries and really bounce off each other. I think the biggest one though was Cascade had never had a one-drop beer before. You know, we were running off the mutual trust of a friend. Brian Redwood connected us after Ben from Carwyn reached out a few months ago, said that there was a spot in the box someone had pulled out and would be interested in being a part of it. I mean, of course, we were like, hell yeah, we were. So we put the feelers out, Brian got in touch with the guys at Cascade, Big Mike and I headed off. Late night texting, Stevie messages about beer, emails, things like that. You know, the timeline on it, we didn't have much time to really get this over the line and completed. So, you know, the guys at Cascade and Big Mike as well, they're really easy to work with. Our approach and ethos to beer is quite similar. So, getting a beer on the table and to really start to get it brewing and get it over the line and choosing what we really want to do with it was quite easy. And none of us had worked with dragon fruit before. It's probably a pretty big challenge. We knew it was going to give amazing colour. We just didn't know what kind of character it was going to give, if it was going to give any, especially at such lower fruit dosing rates, which I wasn't used to. We weren't used to here at one drop. It came out fine. You know, the colour is beautiful. I think the backup of kiwi fruit really pulls everything together, and again, that peach ties it all. Here at One Drop, we listen to a lot of reggae, so it makes sense that One Drop like Bob Marley is the one you want to listen to with this beer. Drink it in between the pops, you know, halfway through, cleanse your palate, and move on. Big thank you to the guys at Carwyn Cellars. Big thanks to Brian Redwood and Big Mike at Cascade. This has been an awesome weed project, and I can't wait till next year, and hopefully we can all be together and say hello and share a few beers together. But until then, thanks.
Okay, we are on. Welcome, Big Mike and Nick,
Hello.
to the Carwyn Collaborational chat to talk all about your beer. But before we do, let's maybe Big Mike, tell us about Cascade and your role there.
Yeah, for sure. Cascade Brewing, we are one of the sort of like forefathers of American barrel-aged sours, forefathers, for, you know, equality's sake, of course. Yeah, we've been doing that since about 2006, 2007, well before like a lot of the big craft beer boom took off in the States. And we are known for doing barrel-aged sours, using copious amounts of fruit in these sours, fruit re-fermentations. A lot of our process really mimics wine processing. And yeah, that's kind of how we became well known. We earned a couple of awards early at JBF from around 2007, 2008 for our sour beers. We cover a lot of different styles, and I'm the head brewer there. But I mean, you know, since beer is more than just like a job, I try and get my hands into everything. I don't just stop at, you know, saying what we're going to brew or how we're going to brew it. So.
Great. And Nick, for those of us who don't know too much about One Drop, what can you tell us?
Yes, so One Drop, based in Sydney in Botany. We opened up in January last year in 2019. So it's a family-run brewery. The guys live just down the road. I'm the head brewer here, head of production, and was the only brewer for a very long time until lovely Patty, who's on the brew house now, joined us a few weeks ago. We kind of came out guns blazing, took out a few gold medals for our core range at the Australian International Beer Awards, and then started to, similar to a lot of other breweries in Australia, started doing a lot of sours, started playing a lot of fruit in those kettle sours, and started doing a whole bunch of milkshake IPAs and exciting beers, you could say, during COVID, which really kind of helped us get out there and get through COVID. And now we're coming to summer and just trying to focus on experimentation and our upcoming expansion.
Great. And how did the two of you hook up then? Because Nick, you've brewed in Europe, I know in Europe and the UK before, but how do you get to know an American brewery?
We've got the same distributor. Shout out to Brian from Redwood. What up,
yeah.
dog? And we were approached by Ben at Carwyn Collaborational because their brewery had pulled out and said, can you get something together as soon as possible? So I reached out to a bunch of people. Also, Brian got involved and said, hey, I got some people in my portfolio. I'd love, like, you guys will get along really well, and we can connect you up and see if we can get something happening. It all happened really, really quickly, just so we could be a part of this. And really happy to be part of it. And then Big Mike and I just started texting heaps.
We're best friends now all the time.
Yeah, yes, nice, man. Pen pals, text pals. Yeah.
That's right.
Cool. Obviously, Big Mike, you don't actually have the beer because of the timing was a bit short, but we've got it here.
Yeah, they're on the way, bro. They're on the way.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. In due time. In due time.
There we go. That's it. A better look. I fortunately got mine yesterday. It is 11 a.m. in Australia while we're recording, just so everyone's on top of that.
It's 5 o'clock here. 5 o'clock here, though. So
sweet as.
Wait. Yeah, that looks gorgeous.
Team effort, bro. Team effort.
Yeah, right.
I've got the Carwyn glass as well.
Oh, official.
Cheers.
It looks similar. What are you drinking, Mike?
I've got a 2015 blueberry. I haven't had that in a while, so I figure it's a good time to open it.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Cool. So tell us about the beers. How do you land on it, and what was the process like collaborating internationally?
Please go ahead, Nick.
Nick, I guess that's you.
I mean, I've always been a massive fan of Cascade. Like, definitely singing your props now, Mike, and the guys at Cascade. You guys do awesome stuff. So when we got a chance to work together, I definitely want to do something with fruit, with a sour type base. We only have the capacity, being so new, to do kettle sours, so that was kind of that Berliner Weiss style, and that was the only kind of route we could go down to also include a lot of fruit. So Mike and I were back and forth quite a bit about how we wanted to approach that, what lacto we want to use, fruiting rates, especially like how we want to go down the route of making sure that this isn't a traditional Cascade or just a general wild sour. This is a kettle sour Berliner Weiss, and it's extremely heavily fruited to try and get there with a lot of lacto and a slight acetic blend. I guess, Mike, you have like so much insight on what fruiting rates, what types of fruit work together far more than we've had, and you really helped out there. We Skyped super early in the morning. Here it was like, I thought it was late for you. I think the young one had just been put to bed. Yeah, just kind of spinning ideas of what would play into the lacto, and what kind of fruit would still get some fruit character, but really allow that sourness or that lacto character to shine through the beer. I think we got there pretty well. I'm going to say that anyway. Mike, you'll find out pretty soon when
yeah.
Land.
Can't wait.
A lot of back and forth over text, and yeah, I'm just trying to like really nail this beer and all about the fruit. It's from Greg the Berry Man up in the Northern Beaches, so shout out to Greg. Really pulled through on that one. And got us some really good quality fruit through.
Dragon fruit and kiwi fruit is a pretty interesting blend. What was the thinking? Yeah.
Mike's turn.
All right, fair enough. Yeah, no sweat. So with we had talked, and Nick was just saying that they can get some pretty awesome color straight alone out of the dragon fruit, and then in like certain amounts they can get some like pretty decent flavor where it's noticeable. And where I totally went by default on that and trusted him in terms of that. I think it was like mostly just kind of a situation where I was like, well, the color on that could be a huge draw. Oftentimes still colors of beers always are grabbing people's attention, and just based on the psychology of ordering beer, or if someone sees a beer, it's like, oh, that's a cool color, what beer is that? I kind of want to try it. Yeah. So we're like, all right, well, we can knock that down with that first. And then the kiwi, just based on the acidity, that we could add like different acid to the beer from kiwi fruit as is, build on like the acid profiles and structures, and we can kind of create a little more depth with acidity, as well as it's not something that's going to be, we knew we wanted to probably add something else. And so it wasn't going to be solely one-dimensional with like whatever lacto was used for souring, but then on top of that, the acids that come out of the kiwi as well. So there was that was a draw for both of those. So we had one that was going to be maybe more muted in flavor, but we had a great color addition. Then we had kiwi, where it was like, all right, this is a talking point to give us maybe more of a punch, maybe not as much punch as like pineapple per se, depending on like the rates, but it was something that we could use, and it would go well with another fruit addition, which I'm a huge fan of myself.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I think that late night chat, dragon fruit, awesome color, not a lot of flavor all at once, and so yeah, agreed. Just what Mike said is cutting that with a bit of kiwi allows to bring through the flavor of both. We find, and then blending in that little bit of peach at the end, just to kind of soften it up, so it's not just straight acid in your mouth. And yeah, I guess we really wanted to push that one fruit, one lacto kettle sour to come out quite one-dimensional. So the really driving factor was here to get a clean kettle sour, but keep a bit of character there and keep it interesting.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on kettle sours more broadly, Big Mike? Because they often, I guess, they don't, carry the same level of respect as a lot of what you do at Cascade. But where do you feel?
I can't say. So I've made them before. I've worked at other breweries before, and I've made them. And after working at Cascade, I definitely don't drink a lot of them anymore because of like some of the complexity that they lack. That doesn't mean that I don't think that there isn't a place for them. I think there's a great place. I think they hold up a wonderful place in beer styles for a wide range of beer drinkers, because often a person that walks into a bar is going to be more apt to order like a kettle sour offhand than they are to say like, oh, I want this complex, like crazy barrel aged sour that also is like 8, 9, 10% or whatever, you know. So I think there's a place that kettle sours can kind of open the door for a lot of consumers that don't know what they like, especially if they don't like hops, or they say, I don't drink beer because it's bitter, and maybe they refer to a Guinness, and you know that they're not saying the right thing and that doesn't line up. But if we can open the door to more people to get into drinking other styles or into the sour world, the kettle sour is probably where that's going to start. And I've had tons of kettle sours that I do think do break that sort of like stereotypical one-dimensional thing, or when I smell it and the first thing I get is this sort of like yogurt forward like culture of lacto that comes out. And I quite honestly, I mean, what do you expect? You're pitching in like lactobacillus and you're trying to get that to sour within 48 hours, generally maybe 72. Those temperatures are going to give those off flavors. Like that is not, you're forcing something to speed up metabolically, and that's the byproduct that's going to be. You know, whereas like, yeah, I enjoy the process, I guess. There's like a romantic feeling of souring over months, you know, and hoping that it all turns out and dealing with other issues. But I have no qualms against any kettle sours. I might not drink a ton of them because I you know, for what it's worth, it's, you know, it's like smoked beers where I like smoked beers, but, how smoky is too smoky, you know what I mean? And it's just like how much like of this like yogurt and sort of like other characteristics of kettle sours do I like, can I handle to drink enough of? And I'm not like a sampler guy. I'm like, you know, give me the bottle, give me the pint. Like I'm here to drink like the beer and experience it versus a quick taste and be out. So, yeah.
And what are your thoughts on them, Nick? Because it feels like in Australia they are sort of a runaway train in the industry, like the amount out there now and the prevalence of them. Where do you think it's all heading?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people be starting barrel programs or have started barrel programs to get that more kind of complex sourness and to blend into other beers. But yeah, for sure, like probably about 2 years ago when I arrived back in Australia, kettle sours are a few kind of staples on the market, but it was really last summer they started to really kick off, I noticed, around here. And then, yeah, I mean, it's almost like everyone's doing at least one type of sour every year, whether it be a seasonal or a core range. I love that. I think, you know, it's a good gateway to that sour for the Australian market, super hot, that kind of gateway to more sour, more complex beer per se. And I think those kind of lower ABV, softly fruited kettle sours are really going to kick off in the summertime. You know, it'll be them and seltzer, like these two kind of new styles of beers. Two styles of drink that are kicking off. I know seltzer didn't work last year, and I think this is probably the summer of seltzer. But yeah, those kind of can't go past low ABV kettle sour in Oz, especially in the summer. But I think there's a lot more coming, and I think that a lot more people will be going into that more barrel-aged, more complex sour programs, which, as you know, might take a long time, or can take a long time. So.
Yeah, and have you got big barrel plans then, Nick, for One Drop?
We got a few barrels, yeah. So we work with a family winery in the Yarra Valley, Ely Bank, and they sent up a bunch of Cabernet and Chardonnay barrels this year. So we've got a few things in there, but really, you know, 1 or 2 barrels of each, just really playing around. I'm going to be texting Mike really late at night about stuff, most likely. But yeah, no, that's really kind of want to go and try to, you know, getting our hands dirty and using a lot of different equipment and barrels and techniques to play around. You know, we're doing a lot of experimentation in One Drop and kind of want to keep that up. So barrels are definitely the next frontier for us.
Yeah, cool. And Mike, what have you sort of felt like you've learned from chatting to Nick?
You know, I mean, for me, it's like, it's always fun to see how people, you know, I mean, we use a lot of fruit, so I'm always, you know, keen on trying to figure out what people think about certain fruits. You know, I can't always get my hands on things, and if I can, it's a small window. So it's nice to be able to say, all right, well, if you've got some, like, if you've been using a fruit like that, like, what information can I get? Like, okay, cool, you also don't maybe get a ton of flavor off the dragon fruit. I mean, this just with, like, knowing certain additions of things to the beer. And it's nice to be able to get someone else's feedback that maybe has done it a few more times than me, because I haven't used all the fruit, which, believe it or not, is, you know, the truth. We try to use everything, because at this point in time, everyone's like, yeah, so have you done this? And it's like, no, like, that doesn't grow here. So, you know, then we're like, how do we source it? And you're like, of course, it's crazy expensive to get it. So, but it's always nice to get that feedback and that information. And I mean, at the end of the day, always discussing process with other breweries and other brewers and everything is always a great way to, you know, when you're inadvertently like just trying to like come up on a goal versus like trying to get information, like you learn more out of like the collaboration than you probably anticipate. And that's what happened here. You know, we were talking about fruit and stuff, and just his perspective on like how he wants to sour stuff and what he wants to come up with. It's definitely like it's intuitive, you know, and that's like the growth of craft in general. You know, it's like everyone working together collectively, regardless of if it's in the States or wherever, like especially internationally, because you know, we're always trying to move forward and do whatever we can to still put the best product out, because the consumers want what's new and what's the best and like all these things. So if we can all stay in this in some way together to put that out, then we'll keep the consumers happy, and thus we'll be happy, or we'll have a lot of beer to drink.
Yeah, I totally agree, man. Like one of my first head brewer, he was from Portland also. When I was working over at Fort Brewer, and he taught me that, you know, collaboration is key, and a rising tide raises all ships, man. Like we're all in this together, especially now, like internationally, and during COVID. So I totally agree.
And how do you is the beer scene going in Portland? Because obviously people over here in Australia would know it as such a destination and place to be for craft brewing, but it's sort of hard to keep up with the amount of breweries there now and what's happening, what's opening. It's a busy place.
Yeah, you know, and I think the cool thing is like Portland's built for that. Like the people that live in Portland, beer is like one of the fabrics of the city. So it's one of those things where it's like you can like it just turns into a situation where like this is the XYZ amount of breweries I have in my neighborhood that I can walk to, you know, and then you have friends come over from out of town and you go hit up all the breweries, you know, and then it's like, it's more or less like, you know, the brewery is a spot that you can have a birthday. You can go to someone's birthday, you can do like a reception thing there. I mean, it just is like it's become a beacon in a lot of the neighborhoods. And I think a lot of people really enjoy that as like an aspect of their life because it is so normal for us. And then new ones pop up and there's tons of people show up just to be able to figure out like what's going on at the new brewery. And then, you know, then it just, the buzz goes, and I might not go to it immediately, but I know it's like, I got to go try that, add it to my list, you know, and then figure it out.
Cool. We're about to run out of time, but Nick, what's sort of next for One Drop? What should we be looking out for other than more barrels?
So we're going through an expansion at the moment. So we've got some large tanks to get more of the exciting beers we've been doing, rebrew those and get them out to more people. A lot of people are missing out, and we want our customers to be happy. We've also got some smaller pilot tanks coming to allow us to really start playing around with things and experiment, and that will allow us to work with the barrels too. We're also going to start dabbling in some distilling. So we had some distilling equipment left over from making hand sanitizer, which bombed out. So we're going to repurpose that, and I'd like to start repurposing fruits and adjuncts that we use in beer and doing liqueurs out of it. So for example, our Big Bad Wolf, for those who know it, we use a ridiculous amount of cocoa nibs in that, and we just throw them out. But I'd love to get them into a tank and have them soaking and get a repurpose out of them, get some chocolate liqueur happening, or all the berry skins that we use. You know, because we're only in tanks for 4 or 5 weeks, there's still a bit of flavor, a bit of color in them. Gathering all those berry skins rather than going down the drain and soaking them in a locally made or in a house-made spirit and turning that into liqueur. So trying to get more uses out of ingredients rather than just, yep, that's been in the beer and now it's gone down into the bin. So that's kind of our next plan.
And Mike, what about Cascade? You've done it all, seen it all.
Yeah, I don't know about that. No, for us, we actually, we've been, as of recent, we've put out a few canned sours, and so it's been nice to try and like expand into the canned sort of like sour game. I mean, a lot of people don't really anticipate to get barrel-aged sours in cans, but our reception to that for the few beers that we released has been crazy. And we've been able to just let our distributors know, hey, this is coming out. And we've basically been pre-selling everything out, which is, it's always nice to see, you know what I mean? So we're trying to expand on what we're going to put into cans. You know, granted, there could be a can shortage or whatever here. I mean, it's already kind of starting in the States. But more importantly, you know, we're just trying to keep doing that, keep trying to innovate with flavors. We're always trying to, like I had said earlier, it's like stuff that we've never worked with that we want to work with. We don't want to keep, well, we try and keep the same core beers, Apricot Creek, etc. Some of these things that people want from us all the time, but we're not going to get any better if we don't try and experiment and grow and use other ingredients anyways. So a lot of that stuff.
Cool, great. Well, we'll leave it there. Give one last look at this magnificently coloured beer.
Yeah. That looks
and thanks so much for joining us.
Cool, I think we're good to go.
All right. My name's Hamish MacArthur. I'm the head brewer of Hawkers and head traffic director, really.
I'm Mazen. I'm the founder of Hawkers Beer. So it all started in 2014, late 2014. We were selling 961 beer around the country, and we had the idea to start a brewery here. And so we've been going since February 2015 when we put out our first pale ale. So Nick Feels Left Out started off originally with Tom, who introduced us to the guys from Bale Breaker, and we decided to all make this beer together.
We've done a few collaborations with them and had a great time doing it. So this beer was basically the third in a series of prominent beer supplier people, raw ingredients suppliers. And this one is Nick Feels Left Out is about Nick Becker, the convoy king who's set up all the keg deals. So the first one was Tom Needs More Friends, and it was a 6% West Coast IPA. It was this beautiful orange colour and an amazing aroma from Talus, the hop. And then really we got another opportunity to collaborate with them for the initial Carwyn collaboration, which was back in March. And the beer was unfortunately a tank when we had to pull the party. So that one was, the second one was Steph Likes a Party, and that was amped up. So the idea was it was going to be amped up from the first one, Tom Needs More Friends, and went to 9%. And the third one, Nick Feels Left Out, is our is a triple IPA, triple West Coast IPA.
So when the Tom, Steph, Nick series started off, the hop was 692.
So this beer showcases an experimental hop 692, which has now recently been named Talus.
We started off with this beautifully experimental hop that's now gone into full-blown production.
Just before this went to print, they named it and shagged it for us. And so now it's no longer experimental, it's called Talus. We love it. It gives a beautiful sort of melon aroma, and that sort of permeates right through the beer. It's beautiful. So we use a maltiness that we like, and that came from the original Tom Needs More Friends. It's called Caramel Steam. We love it. It gives a beautiful sort of orange colour, and if you use it in slightly bigger doses, it comes through in a bit more of a red, orangey red colour, and it gives a really nutty flavour. It comes through in a lot of, we like to put it in a couple of our beers actually, and we think it works beautifully. From there we just use some Munich malt and some base. But yeah, the star in it for us is Caramel Steam. It's beautiful. Look, it's big, it's rich, it's malty and beautifully hoppy and rich. It's a really nice beer. It's like velvet.
The hardest part about doing a beer in isolation is when the other part of the collaborative beer lives across the world. It's very difficult to kind of communicate. But luckily, us and the Bale Breaker guys, we've already done 2 of these. It's a continuation of the same series. We all know each other really well and have worked together really well. And so making this beer was just natural for all of us.
Biggest challenge we had with this is when COVID hit, it basically forced everybody back into sort of minimal hours in a lot of respects. So getting ideas back and forward took a long time. And look, they're the other side of the world, but you know, Zoom works perfectly, and yeah, it was all right.
But we've already done 2 beers. This was just a continuation of that one. So us and the guys from Veilbreaker already know each other really well, and so it was quite easy for us to really hone in and do this beer.
No, look, just really looking forward to being involved in it. I think it's a great collaboration and a great series. It's a shame we can't all be jammed in together, partying next to Carwyn, but you know, is what it is. Maybe next year.
This is one of those weird times in life when you find yourself revisiting the same beer but doing it differently each time.
Is it going to be a 4th?
Could be another part to this. Don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, Hamish needs a break. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, look, I'd like to think so. I'd like to go over there. So, Bale Breakers, if you're listening, you're going to get me over.
I am Kevin Smith. I am co-founder and head brewer, and that's about all I do right now.
And I'm Kevin Quinn, also co-founder. I'm assistant to the head brewer. This guy.
We opened in April of 2013, so just had our 7th birthday about 6 months ago.
Our brewery is located in the beautiful Yakima Valley of Washington, where 75% of the U.S. hops come out of, about 40% of the world's hops. And we happen to be in Moxie, Washington, city slogan, hop capital of the world. So we're in the hop capital of the world, I
guess. A lot of hops, a lot of wine grapes, and a lot of apple trees.
And not a lot of anything else.
Yeah, that's about it. Out here, we focus on making hop-forward beer. I'd say we take a kind of like an artistic approach to the recipe development and then pair it with tough science to make sure that we keep the consistency up.
Yeah, we're one of the only breweries on a commercial hop farm. So the hop farm's been going since 1932. We started the brewery in 2013. So we've always wanted to showcase hops. It makes sense. Hop growers turned brewers. It makes sense to make hop forward beers. We have started growing barley though. So now we have a series homegrown beer that we use 100% of the ingredients we grew on our farm. So we're starting to mess around with some different styles. But besides the fact we're in the middle of a hop field, we're also in the Pacific Northwest of the United States, and people demand hop forward beers around here.
It's pretty tough to beat this right here. So, good weather, beautiful scenery, good place to have a beer.
Here in Carwyn Collaborational land, we've got two excellent guests. We've got Chris Farmer from Mr. Banks. Chris, how's it going?
Hey guys, good. Thanks for having me.
It's great to hear. And Jesse Ferguson from Interborough. Jesse, how are you?
Excellent.
You've just
Thanks
rushed home from work.
Yeah, I rode my bike. I rode my bike. I was hauling ass.
What's the bike ride? How far?
45 minutes about. Yeah. Ever since COVID, I was driving a lot, and now it's nuts. Everybody's driving. Nobody's on the subway, so the bike is way faster than a car at this point. So,
also good for your exercise.
For my heart, yeah.
Yeah. Jesse, the Australian watchers might not know a lot about your brewery. Can you give us a bit of a rundown?
Yeah, so we are New York City's only brewery and distillery. Or we were first, I guess. There's one other person that put a distillery and a brewery recently. We just celebrated our 4th anniversary. We sold beer for the first time in 2016. It took us about a year to get it up and running. We have a 30-barrel brew house, which means we make like 40 hectoliters of beer roughly. And we have a 1,000-liter still. We have a canning line. So we put out a lot of, we put probably 4 or 5 different new IPAs out every month, I would say. When I logged in, I heard you guys talking about lagers. We make a lot of lagers. We have like a sort of flagship IPA called Premier that we make. It's a 6% Citra Mosaic Galaxy, super fruity, super juicy, pretty dry. And then we have Bushberg, our house pills. And Bushberg is sort of where our brewery is located, right on the line between 2 neighborhoods in Brooklyn. One's called Williamsburg, which is pretty well known, and then the other one's called Bushwick, which is also now pretty well known. So we're kind of like right on the line in between the 2 of them.
Awesome. Chris, we were talking just before we started about your IPAs. You've been putting out a lot lately. What's the run up to Christmas looking like for local customers?
Yeah, it's looking pretty hectic. There's a lot of IPAs in there. There'll be some crowd pleasers hopefully. There's some fun ones too. We actually are probably sneaking out our first barrel aged beer as well. Not really. Australian summer's not the best time for big barrel aged beers, but we're going to do it anyway because it's probably going to be ready. And yeah, it's funny. Our flagship IPA is a West Coast IPA, 6% or 6.2, and also is Citra Mosaic Galaxy. What a surprise!
Whoa! I feel like I'm at the point now where if it doesn't have Citra in it, you can't even really call it beer. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, every beer we make has Citra. Yeah.
Jesse, what are you drinking there?
Yeah, so I figured since I couldn't have any of the Mr. Banks stout, I would. This is a barrel-aged special counsel with vanilla pecan that I think that Chris and I sort of chatted about briefly when we were coming up with the recipe. Or at least I mentioned that I think we had done this one because we were trying to figure out the adjunct situation. Yep. And this one was actually aged for like 21 months. And it's a collaboration with a friend of mine in New Jersey called Kane Brewing Company. So anyway, I figured if we were going to talk about stout, I'd at least have a good stout to drink. So.
And Chris, you've got the beer. This is, I think, as we record this is being packed to go out to people today from the Carwyn team. So the people watching it will have it, but this is a little step back in time. Yeah, can you, I guess, tell us what the beer is and I guess how you both came to brew the beer that you did?
Yeah. So when we were talking to the boys from Carwyn, they were, we were thinking that originally they were going to want us to make an IPA of sorts, and then I think it suited with the pack that Ben Duval hit us up and said, hey, what about a pastry stout? Your stouts have been selling really well, and the the guys at Brewer do some big stouts and stuff like that. So then, yeah, we got talking, and me and Jesse got talking, and I suppose the base recipe for the stout, we've done nearly 5. Before this year, we hadn't done an imperial stout, and this year we've done 5, I think. So yeah, it's become a bit of a thing for us. But I mean, they've all been really well received, and we've liked them a lot. So the base recipes are generally reasonably the same, and then the adjuncts sort of changed around. Generally pretty high ABV. This one's 10.2. Normally in the 500ml cans for us, but for the pack, 355s. We do like a really long boil on these ones with us, to try and we just mash 4 or 5 times with just first runnings, take it, and basically as soon as ours is an electric kettle, so as soon as we get over the elements, we're just boiling. So it ends up boiling for the entire day pretty much, which gives a really good mouthfeel and everything. As far as adjuncts go, yeah, me and Jesse were talking, and as he was saying there, we sort of both said, cacao nibs and vanilla would be really good to go with. And then most of our pastry stouts have had that in them, so we've kind of added something else. And I don't know, I was trying to think of something that was a bit New York. So we decided to I threw the idea at Jesse and said, hey, what about pretzels? So yeah,
I want to know what other New York things you considered before you arrived at pretzels.
Well, we started first on hot dogs and pizza, and it was like, nah, they don't really go with vanilla and cocoa. So,
yeah. I don't know, like bagels and stuff like that, but yeah, didn't really think cream cheese was going to go too well. But
so the vanilla cocoa or the vanilla chocolate in New York, there's a cookie called the black and white cookie. It's like it's ubiquitous. It's everywhere. So that's where I was like, well, New York, it was like, well, let's do that. That's one of the things we've done in the past is like the black and white cookie. And then Chris was like, well, we should probably do something a little extra. So, and then he threw the pretzels, and I thought it sounded great. And I'm excited to hear that it got the flavor. That's awesome.
I'm just trying to remember what we call the black and white cookie here, because it's something I grew up eating, but we had a different name for it, and I can't remember what it was. Chris, do you ever? No, okay, we'll move on.
No, I don't know.
So how do you get pretzels into a beer?
I suppose there's many ways you could probably do it. The thing when Jesse was saying do the vanilla and the cocoa, and I was like, oh yeah, we want something else. Before we added the pretzels, it was tasting excellent, and I was sort of like, fuck, we've kind of got we've got the labels done already with pretzels on it, and these pretzels are going to go in and they're going to destroy the beer. Thankfully they didn't, and it actually turned out way better. Better, maybe not way better, but with the pretzels, we've done some, a few beers like this and stuff and put them in the mash, which is never a fun idea. It always makes a horrible brew day. So what we've been doing recently with coffee and a lot of nuts and stuff like that is re-roasting them to sort of try and extract as many oils as possible in our pizza oven, which takes hours. It takes anywhere from 4 to 10 hours to do the sort of volume. And then we'll rack the beer on top of the product into the bright tank. So we sat it on top of 100 kilos of pretzels. So it's not a huge batch, this one. What is it? We've called it dry pretzel at 50 grams per litre.
Do you normally put grams per litre when you do dry hop, or is that just a...
No.
Okay.
Nah, I sent an email back and forth with Ben from Carwyn about what we were doing with it and how much, and he's like, you better be putting that on the label. All right.
So did you actually measure? Did you go, okay, we need 50 grams per litre for this?
No, we did some tests. We just did some bench trials, just with like one of our base stouts. and just sort of worked out what we thought the right amount of pretzel was. And then I had the fun job of which I've had, you know, for the last year or so of ringing all these different suppliers going, hey guys, I need 100 kilos of pretzels, to generally then get laughed at on the phone. And I say, no, I'm serious. And then figure out a way. And yeah, so I went down all the avenues, Costco and stuff like that. Costco, they call themselves the discount warehouse, but they won't discount. So they've got their base price, and that's where they sit. So we found a lovely place in Reservoir or something. So, yeah, hooked us up.
The pretzels are just like the little, like you get in a bag, like in a vending machine or whatever, right?
Yeah, like pretty much like the Parker's pretzels. I liked the idea of getting a bakery to do it and stuff like that, but just time wise, and I didn't know how much flavor they were going to impart. Whereas I was pretty confident, and also we'd done, you know, the trials, pretty confident that it was going to bring enough character over it. So it brings a really nice salty character to the beer. Without
the salt must be interesting.
Yeah.
Can you open up that can and give us a bit of a taste? Well, not us a taste, yourself a taste, and tell us. Jesse, from New York, how much input are you having on the brew day and everything? How does this work? You can stretch the truth a bit if you want.
It's really far away, but I managed to do the graining out just like I always would if we were doing a collaboration. You know what I mean? Extra long arms.
Yeah. Big long mash paddle.
Yeah, big long mash paddle. Yeah, I'd say this collaboration was pretty conceptual. As much as we would love to travel, period, right now, this was definitely an email collaboration. But Carwyn had invited us down for the festival that was going to happen, and so I mean, I'm hopeful that like someday we'll all get to sit in a bar in some city in Australia that I've never been to and have a beer.
One of your brewers used to work at Carwyn, I'm told.
Yeah, so well, it's Dove, who's not one of our brewers anymore. Okay. Yeah, he was like really keen. That's an Australian word. On us getting involved in the festival, and we were super stoked to be invited. And then we couldn't make it anyway. And then it turns out I was kind of lucky I didn't, because I had a bunch of friends who went down for hop selection, and it all sort of hit. In Australia, it all sort of hit at the same time, and I had friends who had to like change their flights in order to fly back from Australia. I mean, it just sounded like, like everything in fucking 2020, it sounded like a nightmare. So
it was a stressful time to be moving around by the sound of it.
Yeah.
Chris, now you've poured the beer. Can you were worried about head retention. It looks pretty great from here.
Yeah. It's something that we've been playing with the dark beers to definitely try and get them. We're trying to get them with the IPAs too, but that's a whole nother story with the
hazies
and head retention. So, but yeah, no, this one's turned out good.
So how much salt is coming through, and do you think that'll stick around for a while?
Yeah, I think the salt will. The character of the actual pretzel, it's already sort of like we packaged this 22nd, so week and a half ago.
That's 22nd of September.
Yes.
Yeah. Cool.
The salt character is 100% still there. They're like the sort of roasty and toasty note of the pretzels is not. But yeah, no, the salt's 100% still there. So
it's cool. It's like a imperial pastry goza stout.
Yeah, it's like the back end is you get so much pretzel still right on the back of the palate after you let it sit. I actually have one. I had one by the fire it was terrible weather last weekend, and had one by the fire last Saturday, and it was so nice. Yeah.
Well, the saltiness is an interesting addition for me, and Chris, I think you probably know this. I'm not a huge pastry stout fan, but if I really like salted desserts and those kind of contrast and that the way that it brings out flavor. Is that kind of obviously the approach for this?
Yeah, definitely. And this does this has got the same amount of lactose that a lot of our pastry stouts have. So it's finishing at 10 Plato. but it doesn't it does not taste sweet at all.
I want to know, might be a few people out there that doesn't know what that means. And Jesse, your reaction probably summed it up. Can you, Jesse, why did you react like that? What does 10 Plato mean?
10 Plato is really high. Well, I mean, I wouldn't say it's really high, but it's a high terminal gravity. So that means there's a lot of unfermented sugars in there, which from what Chris is describing the flavor, it sounds like it's mostly body, huh, Chris?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so it's not, if anyone calls this beer sweet, you know where I am.
I remember I was telling you that right before you did this, we had just brewed a beer that we started at 31.5 Plato, or no, 33.5 Plato.
Yeah.
And that ended up finishing at 8. And we don't do, but we also didn't use that didn't have any lactose in it. So that was a attenuation. Oh, excuse me. I got to close the door. My kids are about to run in here. Sorry.
Sure. So I guess, so starts off with a lot of sugar, fermentation just turns all that sugar into alcohol and then leaves you with.
Yeah. So we, and with, as I was saying, with all the pastry stouts, we do use quite a bit of lactose in them. So yeah, it's sort of, there are some of the ones that we've done this year that are super sweet, but this is not at all. The salt cuts through it so nicely. It's
really cool. Now I really want to try.
Yeah, it's a very strange, but super delicious. Yeah.
So Chris, is this all going into the Carwyn pack, or if people that maybe didn't get the pack, can they find it somewhere?
We have a tiny bit left that will go. It wasn't a huge tank, so we've got a tiny bit left that'll probably only predominantly go on our online store and at the tap room for takeaways. Which there's not a lot, so I can't imagine. I don't think it'll last very long.
Yeah, cool. Now I just want to, Jesse, get a quick update on how things are going in New York. How's the vibe and
today is the first day of, so today, September 30th is the first day of 25% indoor dining for New York City, which is not enough for most of our customer base. I mean, we're primarily wholesale. We sell, a small amount, used to be a lot more, but still not as much direct to consumer through our tasting room. We've always been pretty wholesale based. And so it's not enough to keep those people really ripping, but it's something. And it's fall, it's beautiful here. You know what I mean? Like the days are getting a little shorter, the trees are starting to turn. People, it's perfect weather to be drinking beer outside. So there's a lot of outdoor, the city, New York City's had outdoor dining, really relaxed regulations and super liberal sort of enforcement, or I shouldn't say enforcement, but a lot of people have outdoor spaces that they're on their sidewalks now that they're able to utilize that didn't before. And so it's kind of, in a way it's kind of cool because we get to go meet our friends and have beers on the sidewalk and talk at a distance. But for the economy, if we were like just a pub or just a tavern, it would be really tough. We've seen our wholesale numbers to our distributors outside New York City like double. Well, yeah, maybe I would say close to double, which we're lucky, right? Because otherwise it would be hard to stay alive, and that's the reality for a lot of businesses. So it kind of sucks. But I mean, I don't know. That last night was that debate, man. Like it's crazy.
Let's not date this too much because there's probably 2 more debates before anyone actually sees this, and who knows what's going to happen before.
I think we cut that part out, but I don't know I just don't know if things are going to get better before they get worse or what. And so for us, business is like, what do we do? You know what I mean? And so we just keep trying to make beer and trying to be as creative as possible and trying to give back to the community in any way we can. And one of the ways to do that is to donate money. One of the ways to do that is to donate time and space for awareness, and then the other way is just to keep making really good beer so people have something to do to take their minds off of how much everything sucks.
Chris, now that we look like we hopefully would have relaxed restrictions, I know you've got a bit of an outside area. What are your plans for that?
Yeah, we've been in contact with Liquor of VCGLR and our local council to try and get the whole or maybe 50% of our car park licensed. As though, yeah, it's looking like we're only going to be allowed to do outdoor dining, so we'll have to wait and see. They've so far said that they're, going to be pretty responsive to that sort of stuff, but yeah, until we get that yes, who knows really. It's like we had people literally on, I think they had the press conference on Sunday, and then within an hour we had like 10 emails of people wanting to book grand final day and stuff like that. It's like, guys, we don't even know like what we're going to be allowed to do, or so it's awesome that people want to come back, and we can't wait to open back up, but then you won't know.
Yeah, hopefully we can look back when this is, people are watching this and go, great, we're all being able to go and visit Mr. Banks for a beer. Thanks you both for your time. It's been really great, and I really look forward to tasting the beer, and I'm sure Jesse is the same. But
I hope I get to try it. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Welcome back, everybody, for the finals live session of the Carwyn Collaborational. As you can see, it's a little bit chilly here in Melbourne. So I decided to, actually, someone told me that my mohawk was off-centre, so I thought I'd best cover it up. Anyway, I hope you're having a great day, enjoying the beers, enjoying the chat. For our final session, we have with us live at Carwyn Cellars, Matt from Boat Rocker, Mazen from Hawkers, and Justin from Deep's Brewing. They've all had a bit of a chat about their beers already today, but we might just get them to do a little bit of a recap in case you haven't seen the videos that were recorded earlier. I guess starting from maybe Maz, we'll go from side to side. Maz, do you want to tell us a little bit about your triple IPA with Bellbreaker? It's the third beer you've made with those guys, is that right?
Yeah, so this beer started off as Tom Needs More Friends, which was a bit of a nod to Tom Adams. Anyone in the industry will probably know who he is. And then it developed into Steph Likes a Party. And then as COVID developed, this developed into Nick Feels Left Out. And who knows, we might have a fourth one, depending on how we go with this. So this is kind of Tom on steroids, part 3. It has a bunch of Oregon malt, steam malt, because it gives more of a biscuity rather than a caramelly flavor. And when we made this beer, it had hop 692 in it, which is now, I think, called Talus, if I'm not mistaken. So it's gone from an experimental hop to a commercially available hop. So that's our triple IPA with Bellbreaker from Oregon.
And how did,
Sorry, from Washington. Jesus Christ. And America, it's all the same.
How did you go about making well, I guess all of the beers with them? How did the collaboration work from day one? Because I think first time I would have come across 692 was in the first of the IPAs you made with them. And I remember being blown away. At the time I was having issues. I think I had a cold and I couldn't smell stuff properly. And I tried that beer, and I think I sent you a message in the States straight away going, what the hell is this hop? Like, there was just something, it's incredible breadth of characters. So how's that process worked from then through to now?
Well, I mean, credit to Tom, who introduced us to the guys. So we got together with the guys when they were over here in Australia, and decided to make a beer together. And then I was on their farm. So the guys are actually nth generation hop farmers. They're completely obsessed with their hops. And they were one of the founding farms in Yakima Chief. And this was one of the babies that they were working on and trying to get traction on. And I thought it was a fantastic hop. And when you called me, I was on the farm with the guys. And modern technology, I guess. We started off with a beer and kind of got stuck into 3. And if this goes any longer, possibly 4 and 5 and 6 and 7.
Good stuff. And I guess, Matt, so we had a chat about your beer with Duval earlier, and we had an amazing tour of their brewery with Emily. But do you want to tell us a little bit about how it came together?
Cheers. Yeah, look, we'd been chatting with Emily from Duval for quite a while, trying to tee up some sort of collaboration, and then obviously COVID hit, and it resulted that we couldn't travel and catch up, but we came across the idea of a mole stout and how best to make a mole flavored, Mexican inspired. We had access to some amazing ingredients with the large Latin American community here in Melbourne, so we thought let's do a barrel aged version initially, but then that fell by the wayside just due to the unknown. So we went ahead and added some barrel character by charring some staves, putting them in the mash, securing some amazing chilies, lots of cacao nibs and cinnamon quills, and really just sort of giving it a depth of flavour that, I think a barrel aged version will make it much nicer, but it's still pretty delicious as is.
We had one of the questions in the live chat, actually from Federico, was saying, what was it like brewing with someone so well known for their stouts, particularly when you're probably best known for your ramjet?
Look, it was definitely, we wanted to not completely stuff it up because Duval, we've been idolising them for years as amazing brewers, amazing beers. So we wanted to make sure we did justice to both our names. And really also, I know they've got a festival called Berefts, and one day we'd like to get there and sling some beers. And this is an opportunity for them to come out here and hopefully create a long-lasting friendship, really.
Nice. And last but not least, Justin, from Deeds with your another big hazy, this time with the outer range. So what can you tell us about that?
Surprise, surprise, big hazy. Yeah. No, 2 years ago, we went to the Craft Brewers Conference in Denver, and I met up with a buddy of mine that was living out there from university the weekend before, and he was like, oh, we've got a couple places we need to go, and one of those places happened to be Outer Range. So we went there, and we had a couple beers in their little beer garden, and ran into one of the brewers, and started chatting about what they do and how they do it, and got a little tour of the brewery, and then ran into them again during the weekend at the CBC. And just kind of stayed in touch, chatting back and forth. And when Carwyn came to us, late last year, probably, talking about potentially doing this festival and a potential brewery. And I just thought these guys would be great guys to work with because they were just so wonderful to hang out with in person. So we did a couple Zoom calls, and we went through the recipe and talked about how we wanted to do it. And they ended up coming up with the name Daughters of Neptune. So yeah, it was a lot of fun, and really liked working with them and hope to do it again. And we're excited because it'll be hopefully in the next month or so the first time we see a beer brewed in the States with our logo on it. So it's pretty exciting. So
have you sent some over, or they've actually brewed the same beer over there, have they?
Yeah, they're going to. They haven't. I don't think they've done it yet, but the plan is to release it at some point. I think in November. So we've got to organize all these cases to go to the east to my family and friends. So it's all very exciting.
Nice. Well, we'll come back to some of the questions we've had from the live chat, but I was thinking I'd get it out of the way. As 3 Melbourne-based breweries, how's it been 2020? And, you know, how are you feeling about the fact you might be able to have people sort of through the door and sell some kegs into bars again? Matt?
I'm excited, hopeful, but excited. And selling kegs, they've been gathering dust for the last 6 months or thereabouts. I don't even know how to. We have been filling some kegs for interstate orders, but yeah, crikey, it's going to be a bit of a shock, but looking forward to it.
You've put a canning line in recently, haven't you? Because I've noticed. I mean, you've always been kind of prolific with your limited releases, often sending like 5 barrel-aged beers out in bottle at the same time. But there's been a lot more cans now as well. Is that something that would have been a plan pre-2020? Is it something that will continue?
It'll continue regardless. I think the cans with the canning line, it just opens up so many more freedoms to be able to package formats as well as to shipping ideas, and we've got a bottling line as well, so that gives us flexibility with what we can produce, and they'll always just keep on going. Really, everything with craft beer is just limited by your imagination, so we'll definitely be coming out with lots of different delicious things.
Yeah. And what about you, Maz? I mean, obviously you'd be a bit like a bunch of us over here, sort of unable to travel overseas, but you've also, I guess, in your home country of Lebanon, been hit by a separate disaster that you guys have brewed a beer for this year. So how's the last few months been for you?
It's been quite hard. I mean, I guess I'm lucky in the sense that I get to be an Australian and be in Victoria. I'm very proud of being an Australian and a Lebanese at the same time. It has been hard for my family back home. It's been super hard because I can't get back to see my family back home. I mean, my son was slightly injured during the explosion. So the beer that we did to help Beirut wasn't actually released, wasn't my thought, my idea. It was the team at Hawkers who came to me and said, can we do something? Because we just come out of doing the Heroes Gold to help bushfire relief. And the team felt that would be a great thing to do. So 2020 has been a pretty crap year. Can't wait till it's over. Is it over yet? I don't know.
Well, so I was chatting to the guys at the Cherry Tree about pubs hopefully opening in Melbourne next week. And I said to, Toby, how's the last 7 months been? He's like, is it 7 months? It feels like 7 years. So I think everyone's keen to get out. Talking of looking ahead to next year, Justin, what's happening with the Deeds tap room? I mean, you had the longest process to actually get approval, but you've had approval now. Is that are the doors going to be thrown open as soon as lockdown's finished, or where are you at with that?
Yeah, so it was a bit of a battle setting up a brewery and a tap room in what some people call the Prohibition Triangle. I don't know if I would recommend it. And on top of that, we were just very pleased to work with the wonderful counselors down there in order to get everything pushed through, and it was just amazing, the support. But I mean, in all honesty, we're probably looking at early 2021. They've just started doing the works in there now. Obviously, with COVID, things were delayed, but we didn't get it pushed through until just a few months ago. So now it's the process of kind of putting it in that vision, and obviously with the way things are going, it's a bit tough going, but we're hopeful for early 2021.
Okay. Another question we had, I didn't actually note down who it was from, and it's to all three of you. Do you have any sort of dream beers on your wish list of beers you'd love to brew in the future that you haven't done yet? Who wants to go first on that one? Throw your hands up. You've already brewed them all.
I'll go first. Look, we've brewed nearly every style under the sun. I reckon the one thing that I haven't done yet, and don't shoot me, but would be a barrel-aged Brett funky cider.
Okay.
Oh.
That might be coming up.
Not a barrel-aged pastry seltzer.
No, I did jokingly think we were going to do a barrel-aged seltzer. Just get some water and put it in a bourbon barrel, then add some bubbles. We may do a limited run of that, just as a complete piss take. But yeah, we'll see.
What about the other two? Anything you have a sort of dream beer that's yet to come out of your breweries?
This year, probably not, since we're pretty close to the end of it. But at some point in the future, we hope to get into some more wild fermentations. I mean, the big limitation that we have at Hawkers is that it's very difficult for us to mix fermentation cultures. And so at some point, as we have a more segregated area, we can start doing some more mixed fermentations.
Yeah. And what about you, Justin? Will you have more freedom to brew more different things? I mean, which is hard to imagine, indeed, putting out more different beers. But, you know, will you have more freedom once you've got your 20 taps at the tap room?
Yeah, we're pretty excited. I think, you know, next year, I think you're going to see a continued onslaught of limited releases, but peppered in those are going to be some of our mixed culture beers. Those will be coming out. And also the bourbon barrel program is kicked off. So we're hoping to see quarterly releases on that front at a minimum. And then, you know, I think in terms of something I really want to do, similar to what Matt was saying, there's this place in Vermont I quite like that does ice ciders, you know, kind of like an ice bock, but with cider, getting it up to like 14% and barrel aging it. Man, I want to do that. We should do that. Yeah, let's do it. But yeah, no, I think next year, hopefully we'll just keep rolling on, I think.
Yeah, nice. I've got one question. Where was it? So we know Justin and Matt are hands-on at the brewery. What about you, Mazen?
Hi, Mick. Yeah, my life back in 2006 started off as a hands-on brewer for quite a few years, back in 961 Beer. And we've got an amazing team that actually know way more about brewing than I do these days. So hands off to Hamish, who does a fantastic job. The beers that are coming out of Hawkers these days are just amazing. And him and his team have done fantastic. I mean, Alex is a guru with hops, and Mel is great, and Jimmy's great, and all the brewers, James, Andrew, they're all fantastic. So luckily, I don't have to be as hands-on.
Luckily for everyone.
I'm still quite involved in the MPD process, which is the product development, but I don't have to be hands-on these days.
I've got a slightly more technical question. Someone was asking, it was targeted at Hawkers. Actually, you could go to all three of you because you all make them. Any tips for home brewers wanting to make double IPAs like you guys are? Are there any sort of, I guess we've got limited time, but are there simple tips when you're trying to achieve a well-made and I guess balanced double IPA?
Double IPAs are such a massive category. Are we talking about hazy, non-hazy, New England versus hazy? Are we talking about West Coast? Do you want to dry out the malt? Because the thing with double IPAs is they border on the line of barley wines, right? Mm-hmm. And so it really depends. The question, I guess, back at that person is, what is the specific style that you're looking to brew?
Well, as I'm not that person, let's go West Coast.
West Coast. So, I mean, it's finding that, the critical part is finding that balance between the malt, I guess, and the degree of hoppiness, and whether you're looking for what level of bitterness and how you're going to manage all the heavy malts in the beer.
Yeah, as an ex-home brewer, I'd recommend hops freshness as well is paramount. And no offense to the homebrew stores that do divvy up the 5 kilo bags into 30 gram bags, but maybe think about going in and buying a 5 kilo bag and divvying it up with your close homebrewing mates and get them as fresh as possible. And store
not
them
oxidized.
Yeah, get a vacuum sealer, store them in the freezer, so they're always fresh. And then that should be a good starting point.
What about you, Justin? Just drink them early.
For me, I think the biggest thing is fermentation control, temperature control. I think, as a home brewer in Singapore, when I used an entire room with an air conditioner on to maintain my temperature for fermentation, it was a disaster. I mean, and I still drank it because I have pride. But, it was, I think fermentation control is one of the biggest things that you can invest in as a home brewer in terms of that. And then process on the back end, cleaning up that yeast bite and whatever, especially if you're doing a hazier beer.
Hey, that reminds me of my first brew when I didn't know anything about brewing.
Oh, yeah?
I killed the yeast, and so it turned into green gunk 2 weeks later. I still drank it because of pride.
Because of pride. Got to. No choice.
Now, I guess in the beer world today, there's no style, there's no idea, there's no flavor, no ingredient that seems to be off limits. For the three of you, are there any ingredients or, I guess, some techniques that you haven't explored yet that you're really excited about trying, or maybe stuff that you've used once or twice before that you're really hoping to work with a lot more in the future?
Nothing's off limits within reason. But they all excite me really. As long as it's going to be flavoursome and balanced, I think that's the key. Not just using something for the sake of using it, as long as it's tasty.
I think that's exactly right. It's not a question of what's on limits and what's off limits. It's a question of having the credibility of what is the beer supposed to be at the end of it. It's not using the ingredient for the sake of the ingredient. Yeah. It's what am I trying to achieve, and what is the best way to get there.
Yeah,
I would agree.
Anything that you've used before that you would never use again?
I would be cautious with heavy dry hops and mango. Just throwing that out there. Just throwing it out there.
We definitely learned our lesson with that one. We have made it again though, and we learned our lesson and how to treat it. Dried figs are a tough one. Don't try and filter beer that's had dried figs because you'll have problems.
We've had fresh figs that we went. Yeah, I completely feel your pain. Luckily, we've not had any mango so far in our beers, but that's a good heads up.
Sharing the knowledge. Before I bring in Ben Carwyn, one final question. Bring it back to the festival. Do you, if each of you could pick one brewery in the world to be your collaborational partner for next year, who would it be, and why? I guess. Naz?
It's a loaded question.
That is a very loaded question.
No, it can't be 961.
I can't be that way. I can't collaborate with myself. I don't know. I mean, there's so much good beer out there, right? And there's so many people that I have a lot of respect for out there. But I think one of the people that I probably personally have a lot of respect and have all the time in the world for is Sean Hill, because I think this is a guy who is so out there on the spectrum of doing beer at a level that I aspire to, in the sense that he breaks down the hops and does things that are not necessarily cool or hyped, or I mean, the guy does saisons and he has hundreds of beers that have 100% rating on Rate Beer, and if anyone ever gets a chance to have a chat to him, he's one of the nicest people I've ever met. So I guess, not to take away from anyone else, but just for the depth of knowledge of Sean. And he trained under Anders Kissmeyer, who's another great hero of mine.
What about yourself, Matt?
There are a lot of breweries I'd love to collaborate with and have, I guess, idols from the drinking and also the brewing side of things. But I guess it comes down to it. I was torn this question before about either a barrel-aged, perhaps Starwood barrel-aged St. Bernardus 12 would be pretty amazing, or a Circundonker St. Bernardus will be up there. But then I also love Boone Vat 69 with an Australian touch. I'd be happy with them, but some other breweries as well. The list goes on. But
Justin?
Hawkers and Boat Rocker.
Someone had to say
it. That was an easy one.
How did we miss that one?
Second choice. I've been following a little startup out in California called Private Press. They're purely a barrel-aged barley wine and imperial stout brewery with guys ex-Jackie O's, and I think it's really interesting and fun what they're doing. So I would say, as a random pick, I would go that direction.
Yeah, nice. I was also supposed to point out, if you want to win one of the sold-out can vent boxes. I think the can vent box is sold out in 24 hours this year, which is insane. There's a box up for grabs for the best festival at home setup. You just need to put it on socials with #collaborational at home. So make sure you get that done if you want to win one of those boxes. And I'm going to hand over to Mr. Carwyn himself to say a few words. Yeah, Ben, jump in.
Perfect.
Oh, there you go.
Thank you. Of course, this doesn't go on when you want it to. That's the way, isn't it? So, really, I want to thank everyone for participating in the festival, for buying the box. I want to thank all the staff who've done so much work. I want to thank this guy who does all the beer for Carwyn, so he's always done it. And I want to thank all our sponsors who helped us put it on: Crafty Merch, Crafty Pint, Craft Link. Oh, why they're all starting with craft, I don't know. And I'd like to thank the guys who helped us do with all the technical stuff today, which is Alistair Robbie from the Post Project, who's been a great friend of mine and the bars for years, and Luke from Ale of the Time, who's been at home making sure everything runs as smoothly as possible. So I think that's everyone. Is that everyone?
Time to crack this.
Time to crack something from one of our partner breweries, just because we can.
I also want to say, keep supporting local. Like, it's been huge this year.
Yeah.
Supporting your local breweries, supporting your local
Venues.
local retailer.
Yeah. Support your local breweries. Crafty's just in our ear, but yeah, you gotta remember, support local breweries.
Thanks to
support
everyone at
venues.
home. Keep supporting local.
Yep.
And yeah, lastly, thank you so much to the breweries.
And yes, we will be doing this festival again next year. We don't know in what form. It may be what we've done this year. It may be an actual festival. It may be a bit of both. If you've got any ideas of breweries that you think we should try and get to collaborate together, please let us know. Thanks very much, and enjoy the rest of the day. I knew he was going to do that. Thanks very much, guys.
Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.